All right, welcome in to episode 5 of the Blurred podcast. I've got my co-host Dex, and we've got Hegmo back this week.
Hey,
Shiraj,
Mizzy.
yeah, Shiraj is out because he decided to go into the States, and I put out my call for um, Brits that are on the spectrum to replace Shiraj for me last week, but I didn't get any good replacements.
Wow.
So, Heg, did you have a chance to read that contract that I sent over to you?
My legal team looked at it. I think they
Mhm,
sent back the
mhm.
red line.
So you do know that you said you agreed that you would be doing a British accent the entire time this
Oh,
time, right?
no,
So
they did not tell me that.
okay, yeah,
Tally ho.
we do need you to do the British accent for the rest of the podcast just to make up for
Mm.
that gap.
So the only problem with that, and longtime viewers of the stream know
Mhm,
that I can't do a British accent,
mhm.
and not because I'm not good at it. It's because I actually am British.
Oh,
You what, mate?
Um,
oh no.
yeah, I actually am British,
Mhm,
and Hegmo is a character that I play.
mhm.
Um, that
Oh, like
has a
Robert Downey
non
Jr.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay,
And so if I break character,
right.
that's actually gonna void my contract
So is
on
that
the other end.
when
Yeah.
when you put out your Dynamis video, were you doing like what's that, method acting? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
So you're doing some method acting to kind of really get in the character.
Well,
yeah.
the Dynamis video I saw,
Hmm.
he got electrocuted, so
Hmm.
I think
I
that was
did
real.
die.
That was real. Yeah.
Yeah.
He grabbed a telephone pole, just bare knuckled it. Okay. So we got some news this week. I made a email for the podcast. So if anybody out there wants to send us an email, tell us how much
Oh,
they
wow.
do or do not enjoy the stuff that we talk
Yeah, let
about.
us know.
If they have questions they would like discussed on the podcast or have some topics that we can do, blurredxi@gmail.com. And it's
It's the next
also,
best thing
yeah,
after like physical mail because
mhm,
we need to keep the furnace lit, right?
it's true. It's very, very
Yeah,
true.
when you get the PO box and we
Mhm,
start opening stuff.
yes. So blurredxi@gmail.com. Send us some emails. And if you send us 5 emails, Hegmo will send you a free T-shirt. We
Oh,
worked that out in
wow.
the contract too.
Oh, shit.
Hmm.
Uh, man, I really should read those things.
Yeah.
Well, to Hegmo's benefit, I do remember seeing a clause where he has to be like 20 decibels louder than the two of us. So
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
I guess it is a trade-off.
He's really good at it, to be honest.
Mhm.
So it's not too bad. Anyway, fellas, how have you been this week? What's been going on, Dex, Hegmo? What have you two been up to?
go ahead, Egg.
Shit, I was hoping that you would start. What have I been doing this week? I've got crazy work stuff
Mhm,
this week. Just working, trying to keep up with Sorty, closing in on my stage 5 prime,
mhm.
less than a million Gallimaufry away. Yeah, that's basically it.
Hell yeah.
Fair. I had the week off, so I've just been chilling out, maxing, relaxing, all cool.
Mhm.
Mhm.
A lot of sleep
Nice.
catching up. I got busiest week of the year for my job next week, so fun stuff.
Oh, what's going on for
It's
busiest
4th of
week?
July coming up, so
Oh, okay.
I'm in the beer business.
Hell yeah. Go for a beer right now. I should have brought
Other
one.
than that, I've just been doing sortie, like Hegmo said. We've had a terrible string of unfortunate events. Lemony
Oh
Snicket.
no.
Oh no, that is very unfortunate. Well, I
But
hope.
we'll get back on the horse.
Mhm. Are you losing people or are you just like
Oh, not
having
that
stuff
bad.
come up?
Oh god.
Or
Oh god, no.
no? Okay. Well, that's good.
I'm losing people in the event as they're pokeballing out of existence
Oh
for 3 hours.
shit, that's really annoying.
It
Oh yeah, that
happens.
happened to me actually the other day,
Mhm.
on Monday. On Monday, and I'm like, I have a quota I'm trying to hit of like I have to get this much Gallimaufry every day
Mhm.
because I'm, closing. I have my mesos are done. I just need Gallimaufry. And
Mhm.
so I'm like, all right, if I get this much, it's 15 days away. And every time I get a little bit more or less, I'm like recalculating the average amount I have to get. and I literally zoned into Sorty on Monday and immediately disconnected.
Oh, that's a
And
bummer.
I was okay, cool. Like had not lagged at all until that moment, but
Mhm.
yeah.
We
See,
were 5
So I
minutes
lost like
in.
5 minutes.
We
Yeah.
had popped the chest, and before
Mhm.
someone clicked it, the player like dropped party, disconnected. So we opened the
Oh,
chest, and
dang.
the
Oh,
run
yeah,
was
that's the
correct
Oh,
from
worst.
that
man.
point on. And then
And then you lose the yeah.
the very next day, we were like 10 minutes in, a different person DC'd and was gone for a whole day.
Mhm.
And then the day after that, we had someone fill in, and we had a regular run. And the day after that, we were getting ready to go in, and another player DC'd, and we just didn't run that day.
Oh, dang.
It was like nonstop.
Yeah, I ran yesterday and I killed 2 basement bosses. Because I entered with 2 of the basement shards. I went and killed Ida and Dartok. And then I was
Yeah.
trying to
Exciting.
leave E, and a pudding aggroed me, and I was like, okay, whatever. So I just tried to teleport up while it was hitting me. And
Oh no.
I got the teleport animation, and then my character just like froze and then turned invisible. And then I was like, what the fuck is going on? And I
Oh,
couldn't.
cool.
And then I like ran around in a circle because my character was invisible. And then another pudding aggroed me. And I was like, okay, that kind of fixed it, I guess. And then uh, I realized everybody else went up just fine. So I just like warped out. I was like, you know what? I could salvage this run. But instead of doing that, I'm just gonna go take a nap.
I'm mad.
And that was my favorite sortie run ever. I was like,
Yeah.
why even? Who needs more than 10 minutes in sortie? I'd rather just go home. It was great.
Nice. Yeah, that is the worst when you die. Like I've died to like the first boss I fought or something like that
Hmm.
due to something stupid, and then like you just totally lose your entire run. But what Dex was saying earlier is like when you're on your way to kill LaShawn or something like that,
Yeah.
and somebody disconnects while you're fighting, and then instinctively or you don't notice until whatever, like by the time somebody says something, you've opened the box and then they just miss that key item.
Oh
There's no
shit.
way to get it.
Yeah.
There's no way to, and then you're like, well, I guess we could fight LaShawn, but then they won't have LaShawn's key item and they won't be able to join cartel. And then
Mhm.
it's just like
Just a
It kind
mess.
of
you're
shits the
screwed.
whole run out the window.
Just a
You would
mess.
think that like when you if a box was popped when you came back into the game, it would give you the key item, but I don't
Well,
know.
I
Maybe
was
there's
I
some
was willing to like
technical.
overlook that. Like I know that they're not that generous, but my thought process was, hey, if we respawn them, then he should be able to get his
Oh yeah,
objective. He wasn't there for it.
Mm,
No.
no.
And then we
dang.
tried to do and we tried to salvage the run without the dancer because he DC'd. And we were like,
Mhm.
let's do 8 boss. And then the one procced Aita and he vivisection. We're like, let's go home.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That was my favorite thing to do when I was trying to figure out Aita. I'd go straight into it. And if I died because I was still trying to figure out the fight, I would just warp out and just be like, well, I guess we're not doing sortie today. Oh no, I'm so
Oh
upset
yeah, yeah.
that I don't
Yeah,
have
I
Well,
to
I
sit in
went through
sortie
that
for an
phase.
hour.
I went through that phase too where
Yeah.
we were basically just like, we're gonna start on Ita every day until we figure it out.
There you go.
Instead of doing it at the end like a sensible group, then still
Mhm.
getting Gallon free, we would
No.
just do it to begin with. And it's like if we die, we end the run.
Yeah.
Just to
That's
create that level of pressure and group try to dissolve the sortie group because then you have a
yeah, like
permanent solution. Then you
mhm.
never have to do
when everyone's
sortie
salty,
again.
they haven't gotten a
If you
single Gallimard free.
yeah.
Hell yeah. But on the other side, I went and saw 20 years later last night. I had a lot of fun.
Mhm.
We were talking about this
That's
a
like
little
as old
bit.
as you.
Yeah, it's older, or not even older. It's not quite as old as me,
Older.
but
Okay, sure. All right.
I had to really think about it for a second. I'm not very good with numbers. I just look. I just woke up. I'm still drinking my coffee and Irish cream to wake me up. Give me a break.
Mm, get that buzz going, buddy.
So I remember it was funny because my girlfriend's kid went and she had heard her friends talking about it. And she was talking about it the other day, and she was like, "Well, I heard it's bad, and I heard there's a lot of dicks in it." So
And you're like, wait a second. Suddenly
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
interested
no,
in
I
this movie.
was, I was, I was interested. As soon as she said that, I was like, "Hey,
I wasn't going to see
I
it, but
yeah, now I'm into it." I saw a meme of Willem Dafoe of that, like him looking up. Like I don't know what movie that's from, but it's like his scared meme, and somebody photoshopped in a giant shadow of a dick over his face, and I was like, this does sound like my kind of movie. Let's fucking go. And
That
I
meme is
went.
so popular, they put it
Mhm.
in like one of the most recent One Piece episodes.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
That's funny. I went and I enjoyed it. There were some dicks in it. The dicks were good. There weren't as many dicks as I expected though. So
So like
maybe
this is a zombie film.
right.
Are they undead
So
dicks?
the 28 franchise is it's not they're not undead, they are infected with the rage virus.
Okay.
And like when you think about it, it's about these people that have been surviving in this quarantined area for 28 years. So it
Yeah.
makes sense that these mindless rage monsters don't have clothes because they've after 28 years they've like
Yeah.
yeah they've just deteriorated. So
Okay.
that's kind of the whole thing. So there's a lot of nudity in it, a lot of interesting stuff. I'm not going to spoil anything, but I
Got
enjoyed
Sounds
it.
like
it
the
more
director
than hmm,
had an agenda.
maybe I don't know. We did some research because we were talking about like that franchise before, but I know they were originally going to try to do 28 months later, but it sounded like there were two big things that stopped them from doing that, and that was the director's availability. He was working on some other films at the time, and then also the 28 weeks later got a lot of backlash because it was so different from the original movie.
Mm.
But I enjoyed
Okay.
all of them personally.
Yeah, I only ever saw Days.
Mhm. I think they did a good job of keeping the spirit of the movie as far as like the way they use the camera angles and stuff like that, while changing the subject matter
Mm.
because it was the same like overarching rage virus dealing with that, but it was in three very different scenarios and how they were dealing with it, which is why I got a lot of backlash, but it's also why I enjoyed it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So we're talking about Final Fantasy 11 nostalgia.
Mhm.
And I think that one thing that I always think about that I kind of forget about, and this is there's a segue here, and we can bounce back to whatever agenda you have. But I remember I started playing on PlayStation 2, way back in the day. So like,
Right.
I was playing PlayStation 2, all this other stuff, and I remember my a friend of mine played on PC,
Mhm.
and I didn't like, because I was younger. This was the first MMO I played. I didn't really participate in, like, there was no Reddit or anything like that. I just played the game the way I thought it was meant to be played.
Yeah.
And I remember being at my friend's house, and he was showing me some of his stuff, and he introduced me to DAT modding.
Oh,
Yep.
that early.
And uh they're like, early in the days of Final Fantasy 11, they had
Mhm.
already made like Galka Dick Dat mods where you
Yeah,
would just,
yeah.
yeah.
I remember like my friend that got me into the game telling me that they had DAT mods that you could like put on female characters, and I think I was like 13 years old at the time when I heard about that, and I was like, "What? No, that's crazy!" And yeah, just a bunch of degenerate teenagers
The
playing this
most
Yeah,
game.
degen DAT mods I remember were from Neko Sentai, right?
I
yeah, I
have
think
no
that's the name.
idea.
Yeah, I think that name is very familiar. I remember that.
Hmm.
No, but like I never did that. I remember seeing, like, people would do DAT mods where
Hmm.
like you replace your character model with the Archangel Galka or whatever, just because he's so
Oh,
cool. And
interesting.
the animations were always screwy or something like that. But
Hmm.
like,
Yeah.
it was just like a novelty thing. But yeah, like, just the like lowest polygon
Hmm.
um enhancements that you can make to your characters was people like, just these are hobby um you know modelers, I guess, that are
Yeah.
making yeah, Galka,
They look
nude
rough.
Galka mods
I
and
know what you're
nude
talking
nude
So
character mods.
how did you change DATs on a PlayStation? How does that work?
You didn't, and that's why I was
Oh, okay.
I had no awareness of
His
it.
buddy had the
And
Oh,
PC.
then, my friend was on PC, and
okay.
I was introduced to this whole new world of,
Right.
he's like, "Yeah, there's, you can do this, you
Hmm.
can't do this on PlayStation." I was like, just blown
Do
away
I
by
need that?
Yeah. Yeah.
it.
Well, absolutely he needs it. What do you mean? I mean,
I
if
remember
you're Hmm,
on the DAT mod thing. I remember like there was so many. It doesn't really exist anymore. Like I remember seeing on Auction House there's a thread of like, where are all the ancient DAT mods stored? Are they all gone?
oh yeah.
Um, there I remember people posting like color alterations to artifact
Yeah.
sets and relic sets, and
Mm,
I remember I would always, because back then you'd always wear the same set, you wouldn't really swap as much,
hmm.
at least
Yeah.
earlier on.
Right.
And I remember as a blue mage, I'd always wear the AF body just because it was like strength dex and it had skill. And
Hell yeah.
And
I that swapped the whole armor set with like the Wallara turban and stuff to be black and
oh,
red.
nice. Hell
Oh,
yeah.
hell yeah. I'm
So it like all
There's,
matched even though,
mhm.
it
there
was like
wasn't lock style back then either. I
No.
think
no, there
lock
was I
style
was
was
gonna
added
say it
much
was like
later. Yeah.
the pre like era before lock style, so that was the best you could do to like look
Yeah.
just to yourself, and you look like an abomination to everyone else because you're like purple, pink, blue, and orange, and like everyone's like, "What the hell is this?"
I think at the 75 cap, like TOAU era, the sets didn't look too bad when you had like the end game sets that you wanted. Like it was a lot of
Right.
like Hauberks, and it's almost what I'm wearing exactly right now, like Hauberk and
Yeah.
Byakko's Haidate and all of that stuff. I don't think the sets look too bad, but there is definitely some janky ones out there. I remember like seeing lots of Dalmaticas running around. I should make a new lock style for the
Vermilion cloak,
Dalmatica. Yeah. Oh man, Vermilion Cloak
scorpion.
Paladin was okay. So before we start going into the rabbit holes of nostalgia, why don't we go around the table and why don't we talk about when we started playing the game, what era we started playing the game, and
You want to slash random to see who goes first?
sure, I got an 870.
Oh.
Beat that, nerds.
447.
Hell yeah.
You cannot slash random in your mod house.
Perfect. All right.
So I'll go last.
That just means Hegmo actually, yeah, we're gonna replace you with somebody
Oh,
else now.
okay.
I'm sorry.
Well, see you guys
Yeah,
later.
we had a
It
good
was nice
run.
talking with
We had
you.
a nice podcast and a
He
one
said, "See
tenth.
you guys later," in the commercial
Yeah.
popped.
Oh, Jesus. So when I started playing, it was towards the end of the Chains of Promethea era. It was right
That late,
around,
huh?
yeah. So I think it was 2005 when I started playing, 2004, 2005. I was 12 years old at the time. So I'm aging myself a little bit right now. But I started playing because I had a real life friend and his dad that were playing, and they are the ones that told me about this game.
That's
And
sick.
yeah, so I convinced my parents. I cried to my parents to let me play this game. I had to explain to them that they were going to have to pay a subscription every month for me to play this game, which is kind of crazy looking back on it,
Hmm.
being a 12-year-old and asking your
Yeah.
parents for like a monthly fucking subscription game. And at the time, 12 bucks is a lot more than it is right now. So I don't know.
I
I
don't
think
know
the
why my parents let me do it.
mhm. I think the whole game was like 20 bucks, maybe 30, and then you like added
Well,
50% of that to every month.
depending on how you played too, I can't remember how much it originally was. Like, if you played on PlayStation 2, it was expensive because
Yeah.
you had to buy the game.
Hmm.
You also the game came with a hard drive
Yep.
because there
Oh.
wasn't enough storage space on the PlayStation 2. So you needed to get an extra hard drive to slot into the PlayStation 2 expansion bay. And
Hmm.
then the PlayStation 2 also didn't come with network capability. So you also had to buy a network adapter that would also slot into the PlayStation 2.
Hmm.
So I think all in it was over $100, like maybe 150 or something.
Wow.
Um,
Literally from the get go, PS2 limitations. The
Yeah.
meme.
Yeah, absolutely. I never played on the PlayStation. I went straight to PC, and I think that helped me a lot overall because I don't think I could have played this very well. When you were playing it on the PlayStation Hegmo, did you have to use like a keyboard on the side, or how did that work?
So there was I just looked it up on release. Final Fantasy 11 for the PlayStation 2 included a 40 gigabyte hard drive
Holy shit.
and the network adapter, and it retailed for $99
Oh my
USD.
gosh. Wow.
Um, which is actually a pretty good price.
In
So
hindsight.
yeah, so I ended up getting a USB keyboard to plug into, like, just a really cheap USB keyboard that plugged into the PlayStation.
Mhm.
But when I first started playing, there was a like a software keyboard.
Oh,
You would hit triangle or whatever, and it would pop up a little keyboard, and you would go around and with the controller and slowly type stuff out.
It was like with a flip
Um,
phone. It was pretty miserable.
yeah.
wow.
And then, you could also use the auto translate function within that to like try to speed run some things.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it was slow. It was slow to communicate.
Damn. Wasn't this the very first game to ever have an auto translate function? I feel like I
I
remember.
think so.
Yeah.
It
Like
was very
this.
ambitious at the time.
Yeah. This game laid a lot of groundwork for some stuff that
To
came
be
after.
fair, like I don't think many games had so many regions at the same time
Hmm.
Hmm.
available to play with each other.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And their goal was
Yeah.
to make it very interconnective as a world where you could just play with anybody.
Mm.
Yeah, I think too, like a lot of like, it's I don't know too much about the history of MMORPGs, but I think that like compared to World of Warcraft, which came out shortly afterwards, like they had more regional based servers. Even to this day, all the Final Fantasy 11 servers are in Japan. And so like the entire player base plays on the same servers versus like more modern MMORPGs, even like Final Fantasy 14 shifted to having like, you have your North American servers, you have your European servers,
Yeah.
you have your like Japanese servers. Everything's kind of divided geographically because of ping and whatnot.
Mm.
But yeah,
To our detriment,
everybody
right?
thrown in together, which is
Yeah.
kind of cool. Like I remember back in the day, like especially as like a teenager and you're playing Final Fantasy, you're playing this online game, and like you join a party and they're just speaking Japanese, and you're like, trying to translate and everything like that,
Hmm.
and participate. And there was it's limited. The auto translate function is limited, but you could at least communicate a little bit.
Yeah. So when
I
I.
think as a kid,
Mhm.
stuff like that is what made me like be a lot more open to other cultures, strangely enough,
Mm.
because it was
Yeah.
a formative experience in that like, oh, they're just other people and we're all having fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
The funny thing about, and speaking just like a nostalgic thing about the auto translate function, I feel like it doesn't get used very much anymore.
No.
People use it for jokes, but I always love, because even as a kid, I kind of realized this. You'd go into and you'd see somebody like join a party with Japanese players, right? And the question would be asked in, either in very like broken translation or using the auto translate function,
Mhm.
and somebody would respond and say like may be like
And it
like the month
doesn't.
of May, and
Yeah.
then be.
Yeah.
And that's not how language works. You just
Yeah.
that's like imagine somebody says like hey, should we go fight skeletons over there in the necropolis, and you say like springtime month, insect that flies, like that doesn't like like it
Hell
doesn't
yeah.
make sense.
Hell yeah. So when I first started, I remember very specifically, my buddy wanted me to play the game. I got it, spent, I don't remember how many hours or days trying to download it to my giant clunky computer back then. And I wasn't able to contact my friend, so I just made a character and started on a random server. And I
Mm.
remember immediately like having just, I thought it was amazing. I had no idea what I was doing. I just went out and I started in Winders and started killing bunnies. And my friend messaged me. He's like, "Hey, I'm here. I need you to go make a character on Sylph because that's the server he was on." And I remember saying, "Dude, I'm already level 6. Like, I don't know if I can. I've already put in so much work."
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
Yeah,
whoa,
yeah.
whoa,
I was like, slow down. At the time, being a 12-year-old, I had no concept of how much time that it took to progress in this game.
Yeah.
And so to go from like level 1 to 6, and I don't know, it took probably like 2 or 3 hours back then.
Yeah,
It
especially back then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it felt like I had made a significant amount of progress, and I was like, "You're
Yeah.
asking me to give this all up." And then the other thing that made me mad about that is because I loved Winders, right?
Mm.
But luckily, this actually paid off in the long run. But he made me start in Bastock, and so the reasoning was that he made me start in Bastock is because he was already in Bastock and he didn't want to take an airship.
Yeah,
Yeah,
of course.
so that's how I got my start. I came to Sylph, and I
Were you
started
a
in
hume?
Bastock. I was an Elven. No, this is my very first character. I've been this model
Oh,
the
wow.
entire time.
So you
I've
you
never
didn't get the
changed.
benefit of the Sook where you got the ring that blows.
Yeah, no, I did
The
not.
ring was good.
I did not because I didn't care. I wanted to be a cool, handsome elf boy.
It was like a Dex,
Yeah.
Um,
Vit, and
yeah,
HP, right?
yeah. I was living out my 12-year-old Final Fantasy dreams with the cool haircut and pointy ears, and it
I
was
was
Yeah, and
always
great.
there's no
jealous of the ring
way.
too because I was an elven from Winders as well, so I
Mm.
never got the
Oh,
ring.
wow. You guys were also both. I was a Gulka and Bastock, so like, that just worked out for me.
Did they give rings to
Um,
Galcos?
Yes.
yeah, of course.
They
Yeah.
just treat them like normal people. Oh, okay.
Yes,
Oh,
we're
all
full citizens.
right. I
They're
just
expected
checking.
to work every weekend in the mines, but
They got to pay off the ring over like 10 years every weekend.
wasn't
Be-
that like one of the main
Beautiful elf boy
premises of
gang,
the
rise up.
story? How the Humes oppressed the Galka? Wasn't that like a
Yeah.
story beat?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
All right. So
Ah,
Dex, you're next. How did you get into the game? How did you start?
Um, my buddy's birthday is like Halloween,
Hmm.
and right around then is when the game came out in America. The Rise of Zillard expansion. So
Hmm.
we were at his house. I had like slept over his house, and he had the game, and he was playing it, and I made a character on his account, and I was like, "This is sick."
Oh,
I was just
nice.
running around Winders, like
Hmm.
doing the same thing you were doing, like killing Mandragora. And I was like, "I gotta get this shit." And
Yeah.
like I begged my parents, and then like 2 or 3 weeks later, I got it. And from that point on, I was like hooked.
Hell yeah.
Like I said, I started in Windurst as an
Hmm.
elf, and that's just the same character I play now.
How far did
wow.
you progress before Chains came out? Because you said you started in Rise of
Um,
Solar era, so that was
so
like
I wanted to ask this.
2003.
Yeah, what job did everyone start as?
I started as warrior.
Warrior. Yeah, warrior.
I was a
Obviously.
thief.
You're a thief. Interesting.
Oh,
What an idiot, right? The worst job in
yeah.
the
Oh, jeez. I mean,
Back
it
then, it
Well,
wasn't
wasn't
that
yeah.
bad. Yeah.
No, it was awesome back then,
it
especially
was
when
a
you
good
got to
job.
like level 20, 30. You get sneak attack and trick attack,
Hmm.
doing viper
Absolutely.
bites and just like watching the mob's HP just disappear.
Yeah.
My thought process was like, I had the most toxic thought process back then.
Hmm.
I was like, if I hit level 15, everything I wear has to be HQ.
Oh no.
And then
Yeah.
if I hit level 25, everything I wear has to be HQ.
Oh no.
So I
Oh
would go
no.
around, and leveling was so slow back then. So like my
Yeah.
brain was like, well, I'm not gonna hit 30 until like 3 weeks from now. So it's gonna pay off.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I would then I was the guy that camped Notorious Monsters all day, every day, and just like tried to do
Really
that to farm
Mm,
kill.
interesting.
nice.
So like I remember specifically one birthday. I think it was that year, the first year, like because I started playing in November,
Hmm.
and then my birthday's in January, and I skipped school on my birthday to camp Leaping Lizzie, and I camped it for like 15 hours straight and got like
Did you get the
6
boots?
coins and no boots.
Uh
Oh my
um,
gosh. That's funny.
but yeah, I had played Thief um to 55 arbitrarily. And then I decided that Ranger was the best job in the game because
Of
Oh,
course,
nice.
yeah.
I had partied with someone, and back then you could use your knives and just swing and shoot at the same distance up close and get
Yeah.
full damage. There was no
Oh, because they
didn't
hadn't
happen yet.
didn't have the distance modifier
Yeah, that wasn't
implemented
added
yet.
yet.
Yeah.
So like you'd be like up close TPing with Hawker's knives and then just shooting like bow weapon skills for max damage while next to the
Man,
mob.
back
It was
then
fantastic.
Sidewinder
Yeah.
was busted too.
Yeah,
was
back
insane.
then max damage was 400 damage too. So that's something to keep in
Was
mind.
Sidewinder, did it have the same like TP replication as Pentathrust did when it was like before they patched that too? Basically, where like multi-hit weapon skills that hit multiple times would give you TP return based on how many times they hit, and it wasn't capped. So that's why
Oh,
Pentathrust was so
right.
busted, because you would like Pentathrust and get
Hmm.
400
Shit,
TP
TP,
back.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
I
But
thought Sidewinder was a single hit that was fivefold.
yeah, it
Oh, maybe
was. It
that's it. Yeah.
was. It just did a fuck ton of damage with a one hit.
Yeah.
But
Especially
like,
when you're fighting bats or birds or whatever.
yeah, dude. I saw the ranger once while leveling thief, and I was like, I got to do that. So then I
Yeah.
basically like used my
Oh
thief
yeah.
as a mule to supplement my ranger addiction, and arrows were expensive back then.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was just like leveling ranger up to 75. By the time Chains of Promathia came out, I was a 75 ranger.
Oh wow.
Oh wow.
Okay.
Nice.
But like, I remember back then getting to 75 took like
Took a
anywhere
long
Forever.
from
time.
6 months to like 12 months, depending on how much you played the game.
Hmm.
Hmm.
It took me
75 was
well
such
over 2 years to get to 75. But
it was a hurdle,
Crazy.
dude.
mhm.
You had to be like really addicted and constantly in EXP parties.
Yeah, absolutely. Hegmo, what's did you have anything to add besides your PlayStation stuff when
Oh
you
yeah.
were
I mean,
playing?
I started playing. I remember like being fifth grade, like when it was out in Japan, not out
Mm,
in North America yet, like really young, like elementary school age. And one of my friends and I, like, I don't know how we learned about it. I think that maybe it was in, some game magazine or whatever.
yeah.
And my friend had a Japanese strategy guide before it even came out in North America. We
Mm,
didn't
okay.
read or speak Japanese, but we would like look through it obsessively, and
Look
like
at
we'd
the
be like, oh, when the game
pictures.
comes out, I'm
Yeah.
gonna be a Galka, and like, he wanted to be a Tartar, all this other stuff. Um, and it was a couple years before it came out in North America, if I remember correctly. And yeah, I as soon as it was out on PlayStation 2, I think my older brother actually bought it for me.
Mm,
Uh, and I remember it's one of those where like I can pretty clearly remember. I remember my brother texting me, and I had like the classic Nokia brick phone,
mhm.
the old school indestructible Nokia phone, and he texted me, and he was like, "Hey, your Final Fantasy showed up," and I was like, "Oh yes," and like literally like ran home from school that day.
Hell yeah.
Um, and yeah, it was kind of similar to your story, Myth, where it's like my one of my friends got it at the same time, and you had to go through the whole install process. It took forever,
Yeah.
um, and
We're talking
finally
like
get it installed.
12 hours to install on your
Yeah,
PC.
yeah,
At least, yeah.
yeah.
It was
I
nuts.
think I want to say that like I my brother might have started installing it when it got there. And so by the time I got home from school, it was like halfway done. And then like I was able to play that night.
Your parents are
Um
pissed from Dolphin playing loudly in the
yeah.
background for like 10 hours.
Yeah.
Oh no.
uh and one of my friends was playing also, and so he got on, and we're both like, this is early MMO games. We don't even understand what a server is. We both just kind of like created characters and logged in, and we both like had been talking and on the phone or whatever, and uh we're like, all right, let's meet up now that we're both logged in. Let's meet up. I'm in Port Bastock, by this bridge. There's a home point here, and I'm like, okay, cool. I'm also in Port Bastock. I'm on the bridge, and then he's like, I don't see you. Which
Oh
side of the bridge are
no.
you on? And then like we figured out what a server was at that
Oh
point.
no. Yeah.
And he had actually like leveled up to level 3 or something like that,
Mhm.
but he was like, no, I'll just delete my character. I'll make a new one. So he created a new character. We're on Alexander, and yeah, there was we just I was obsessed with it from that point
That was
on,
generous of
just
him.
like playing like crazy. And yeah, not my original character. I don't have the original Hegmo anymore.
Oh no.
He's
Were you
passed.
always
But
Hegmo though?
yeah, I was Hegmo. My brother and I, as the game was installing, we're trying to come up with a cool name,
Mhm.
and going through the normal whatever, like early high school names that I thought were cool. And then eventually my brother was like, "Hold on, I got it." And he goes into the closet and he pulls out Klingon to English dictionary.
Oh, that's
Oh
sick.
no.
And we go through until we find the coolest, most badass name,
So what's Hegmo in Klingon?
Hegmo. I think it
Yeah.
means like fatal or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Fatal.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
interesting. You're actually
yeah,
just a 12-year-old edgelord, but
yeah.
nobody
Uh,
knows. They thought you just made up
and
that
so
name.
of course the joke in stream whenever I tell that story is I'm just like, well, at the time when I was a kid, I thought that like I was gonna be fatal, but it's actually just like it was foreshadowing how much I'm gonna die playing this game.
Yeah.
As a segue, Hegmo, Kirk or Picard?
Oh, Kirk or Picard? Picard.
Oh hell yeah. Next
Yeah,
gen.
yeah.
Okay, so the next subject would be Chains of Prometheus, but since Dex, you said you had a 75 Ranger, I think it was,
Yep.
before Chains came out. What was your 1 to 75 experience like before Chains came out?
175 was tough.
Mhm.
Um I'm trying to remember where I got 75 at. I think it was Fayin.
Fate, and I would have
Wow.
expected
Not
Bibiki
Fayin.
Bay.
No, Bibiki Bay wasn't out.
Oh, was Bibiki Bay part of Chains?
Yes, it was.
Really? I didn't know that. Okay.
Um, it wasn't Fayin. It was Romave.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, the weapons.
Hmm.
But
Damn.
it was really long. Like once you hit 60, I had camped forever to get a Gyarados bow,
Hmm.
and you just start eviscerating things. I remember hitting 55 in King Rampart's tomb in the basement, and
Oh
just
wow.
like I'm doing EXP on very tough worms and bats, and I'm one-shotting them with Sidewinder. It was disgusting.
Hmm.
But after the 60s, it slows down significantly. But to segue back to chains, like chains, the EXP camps aside, like the the expansion itself was just a blockade for players. Like
Mm.
doing any of the missions, you get to that 30 right away. You get to the level 30 cap Prometheans, and
Yeah.
everyone struggled. It was a
Yeah.
nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was hard. It was
I,
hard
I
It
even.
was.
remember I don't know when they nerfed it, but it did get nerfed. Like the whole expansion got nerfed. So I'm pretty proud that I got to do it while it was hard.
Yeah. When I wonder when they nerfed it, because I think that would have been probably sometime when Treasures was out, right?
I remember doing shout groups for the Halamea and Dem, and it took many, many tries because
Oh
you
yeah.
get
Yeah.
random people. I had bought all the special like knocked gear for my ranger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The empty killer stuff.
And you
Mhm.
need to go and get all like the key items and stuff to like debuff them. Weren't there like different
Not the
key
key
items you
items,
had to
the
farm?
animas, the Taro
Yeah, animus.
anima,
Yeah, yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, yeah. I forgot about those.
and
Yeah.
you like one of them would make it run away in circles. One would like stop it from TPing,
Hmm.
and you had to like utilize those because, I mean, nowadays everyone kind of understands the dynamics of parties, but back then you kind of just threw bodies at it and hoped it
Yeah.
worked.
Yeah. Yeah. Because who
Well, I mean,
cares?
everything was kind of like that too. Like I even remember doing like the mat fight on,
Hmm.
and like, nowadays I think that a lot of people forget how difficult those fights were because,
Oh, they were
they've been
hugely hard.
debuffed. Like you can now bring in trusts, you can do, all this different stuff. Gear's different. But yeah, like I remember doing my mat fight for the first time, and like you'd bring sleep potions and poison potions and all this stuff
Yeah, you
to
had to
build
meet the
TP,
Oppo Oppo
and
necklace, right?
yeah, Oppo
Mm.
necklace, and like all this stuff to try to scrape by, and they were hard.
Yes,
Yeah.
they were.
Yeah.
Oh man. I
There was
remember,
so much stuff back then that just needed help. Like
yeah,
you wanted to go do the mat fight. Well, you need the the paper, the what
The
attestation
testimonial,
or
yeah.
testimony, and you couldn't do that yourself. You needed help.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You couldn't do stuff by yourself. I as like a young kid coming up on this game, it was strange because there's a lot of like life lessons that I learned like firsthand on the internet. It's really strange to think about because I look back at some of my time playing the game early in my early days, and I would like learn just normal manners in like an XP
Oh,
party.
yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
I feel the opposite. Like I was such a little shit on this game.
I was too, but that's how I learned is because like for instance, I remember one
Yeah.
time I was at the dunes and I was like leveling warrior and I had to AFK for like 5 minutes for some reason. And I remember well at the time I was only allowed to play for 2 hours a day, right? Because my parents put a password on the computer. So
Mm.
it was really, really hard for me to XP. They would like kick me off and they would lock the computer down so I couldn't access the
That explains why it
computer.
took me so long,
Yeah, and I was XPing in the dunes, and I remember coming back, and they were like fighting monsters, and I was like, "What the fuck? You guys didn't wait for me? Like, come on, that's so rude." And looking
Yeah.
back at that, I'm like, why as a 12-year-old, I guess that
Yeah.
makes sense, but why would you be offended? Like they're literally fucking getting you
Yeah.
EXP, you idiot.
Yeah, the world doesn't revolve around you,
Well, at
buddy.
the time, I thought it did. So that's the problem. That's what I'm saying. Like I learned a lot of weird like normal life lessons on this game.
Yeah. But wasn't that the worst though? Like, you have to AFK for a minute and like, cause the dunes wasn't so bad because it was fairly accessible, but it's
Mhm,
like when you go out to Yatunga Jungle or Yohoder Jungle,
mhm.
and you're like, it took 45 minutes to get there, and like you were
Or
desperately
more.
hoping for an invite,
Yeah,
for hours. You finally
Someone
get
leaves your
one, and you're
party.
like, I'm on my way.
yeah,
Um, I gotta okay, I'm almost there. I made it, and like just by entire luck, nobody else has left the party by the time you
yeah,
actually get
yeah,
there. The
yeah,
It
white
happens.
mage isn't like the white mage isn't like, hey, I actually gotta go, and then the party disbands.
yep.
And
Or
you
like
actually
people
get
just
some
end up
EXP.
standing there for an hour.
Yeah, you get some EXP, and then as soon as you get to the party, your mom's like, you have to come sit at the dinner table and eat dinner, and you're like,
Yep.
Mom, I can't.
I'm
I
busy.
have an obligation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Oh
Back then,
man.
all
You
the
don't
shouts were just
understand.
like shouting for parties and teleport services, like taxis.
Yeah.
Mhm,
I would I want to talk about this. We don't have to get into it right now, but Dex was talking about like his money making schemes.
mm.
Um but I would run up and down. One of my first ones was I figured out silk thread was relatively
Spiny Speedy
expensive.
Oh yeah.
Uh Silk thread and tree cutting. So I would run up and down Rollenberry fields, killing
or
all the
Rollenberry.
crawlers
Mhm.
and occasional goobos, just to get some loot. And while I was doing that, whenever I would have to rest to get EXP back, um, I would do a search all everybody in my level range, and I would send a
Oh
tell
yeah.
to every party leader, and I'd be like,
That
hey,
was the way to do
I'm a
it.
level 47 warrior. I've got this gear, this gear, this gear. I can bring food. If you get a DD spot in your party, please let me know. And like just harassing people for hours and
Mhm.
hours.
No,
Yeah,
that was the way to do it. That's the proactive way. Like so many people
yeah.
would sit in town and with their party flag up and shout and just beg, but like
Yeah.
Mhm.
going directly to the parties themselves, that's the way
Yeah.
to do it. People left so often.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
You're
think
waiting for a party invite too, like, it's crazy because, like, the people that would just sit in town, like, you're just waiting for somebody to send you a tell, just randomly
yeah.
pick you out of everybody and be like, "Hey, do you wanna come, get EXP?" It would happen occasionally, but
There were
Yeah.
many evenings just sitting in town doing laps.
Mhm. It really taught me how to be proactive when I was a kid because like I said, my gameplay was so limited, right? So I remember every time I'd log on, the very first thing that I would do is see all and then the levels like two below, two
Yeah.
above, because level sync wasn't a
Yep. Oh,
thing.
yeah.
And if
Yeah,
there
you gotta find
were
people in your rank.
yeah, if there was a healer and a tank, or if I wasn't tanking, if there was a healer and like just like 2 or 3 other people, I would immediately start making a party. I would just be
Yeah.
I would just
Oh,
start
yeah.
sending out spam
Absolutely.
invites. I would and if there was like a party composition that was available,
Yeah.
I would try to snatch that up as quickly as possible.
Yeah,
And
what a weird time.
yeah, it was great though because you could easily make parties. A lot of people just didn't want to because they were lazy,
Yeah,
which is fine. But that's
right.
why, like further down the line, we ended up running link shells, running events, stuff like that.
Mhm.
Just because you got used to going out and being a little more proactive, especially if you're limited on time because you got to fucking go to dinner in an hour and a
Yeah,
half if you want
exactly.
your level.
Hi Hex. Kibble brings up a yes, Valiant. We are reminiscing about 75 era nostalgia
Mhm.
fest. Kibble says, uh, couldn't be me. I had slash anon on since I was a bard. So yeah,
Being a
that
bard was
you're
Yeah.
like
highly
the being a
desirable.
bard or a white mage or like a red mage, like you had
Mhm.
to hide because people would harass you.
So
Back
But
then,
I
Summoner
play
too.
warrior.
Summoner healed
I
a
play
lot.
warrior. Yeah, I was
mhm.
playing a like basic default DD, so I was desperate for anything, you know.
Back when 75 cap merit parties and treasures were a thing, there was this one bard on Sylph that would just troll people. So he would put his flag up and be like, and he'd put some snarky thing in his comment, and then he would
Yeah,
just AFK. So we'd
So
be
he just
like
wanted to like
spamming
have
him.
people send
Yeah.
help.
Yeah, we'd
yeah,
be spamming him with tells, like trying to get this bard.
I'm
And
so desired. I feel
yeah,
so
yeah,
poor.
it was just like, fuck you guys. Everybody wants me in the
yeah.
party. And I was like, wow, that's such a strange
You
thing to
started
do,
on stealth, you said?
but okay.
Yeah. No, I
Um,
was desperate all the time. I went from warrior. I played warrior and then I remember I can picture it clearly to this day. I remember getting to Crawler's Nest.
mhm.
So whatever level that was, like 40s,
40s?
40 or
Yeah,
50.
yeah.
Yeah. Going to Crawler's Nest for the first time. And in that little area, as you know, where there's still the bees, like before it opens up,
Mhm.
I'm going through Crawler's Nest and you know, I was heading to my party or something like that, or maybe I was leaving. There's this Galka monk in Crawler's Nest, and he was like decked out in the best level 40 to 50 gear.
Hell
Like he had
yeah.
like, you know,
Brigantine
cross
plus
counters or
one,
whatever, jujitsu gi,
brown belt.
Yeah.
Federation Kiahan +3, brown belt, all this, and he was just fucking tearing stuff up
Mhm.
like solo. And
Oh
I
no,
was
he
like,
wouldn't have had the brigantine. He would have had the
he had
jujitsu
jujitsu
gi.
gi. Yeah,
Yeah.
jujitsu gi. Um, you know, just all of it.
Mhm.
And he may have even had Ochitos Kote or something on too. Like he was just
The
crazy. And
Sarutobi
Terrence tearing up.
Kahan.
Yeah. And I was like, I have to become him. Yeah, like
This is my
yeah,
idol.
yeah,
Galka Monk
yeah,
was always iconic.
Mhm.
yeah.
Hegmo,
And nice. Yeah.
was Warrior your first 75 or did you jump around a little bit?
I think I was trying to remember this when I might have been my first 75 because I remember going up through most of the content, and I'm pretty sure Warrior, like in COP era, I got to 75.
Mhm.
But I don't really remember, like I don't have a specific memory of hitting that level.
Really?
I do remember like because I was pretty slow. Like I played the game a lot, but like I would jump around to different jobs and like,
Yeah.
you know, I was way behind on missions.
Mhm.
Like, you
Missions
know,
were
I was
boom back
stuck
then.
behind the Promethean until, you know, way later. Um and you know, I was kind of never like cutting edge. I didn't do Dynamis when it first came out. But I remember a friend of mine inviting me to a merit point, like my first merit point party. I got an invite from a friend, and they were out in like Treasures of Otter Gone era doing pucks.
Mhm.
And I was like, This is how people play this game," because they were killing so fast. They had like
Yeah.
chain 30 or something like that,
Yeah.
and I was like, "What is this?" Like I
It's
didn't know
crazy.
that this level of like
Mhm.
proficiency existed. It was mind blowing. But I don't. I think Warrior was my first 75, but
Okay.
um, yeah,
Were you the same then?
I have a very specific memory because when I started playing Warrior, people would explain to me like what I was supposed to do. So at the time, you were supposed to have a shield, have a single-handed sword, and if you
Hmm.
went Warrior to a party, you were the tank. And I
Yeah,
learned lots of stuff the hard way that way
Hmm.
because I first of all I didn't know that F8 could target monsters. So I
Ah,
remember like running up to a monster and then like pressing enter. And if it didn't select the one that I wanted, I would like hit escape to get off of it. So when
yeah.
I had a thief that was pulling, he'd almost die like every time because I didn't know how to target the monster. And one time
Yeah,
I actually got yelled at because like he did die, and I was like, I'm trying my hardest. I would like run
yeah.
out in front of him and like try to grab it, and it was just a mess. And then I remember somebody came up to me one day during a party because I was doing my provoke warrior thing, and he's like, "Hey, dude, I'm on paladin. You don't have to do that." And I was like, "What?
What?
What? What does that mean?" And then
I'm not tanking.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was confused. I was like, I thought that was my job. That was the whole reason I came here. And so I ended up getting 30 and then switching over to Paladin. And I was like, oh my God,
Mm,
this is amazing. I can cure
yeah.
one. And Paladin was my very first 75. Took
Wow,
me,
Really?
nice.
yeah, it took me 2 years. I got 75 at the Memulja camp in Treasures. And I was so excited that I started like spamming loot in link shell chat, to the point that the link shell leader
That
told
is an
me to shut
era
the
thing.
fuck up.
No one says
Um,
woo anymore.
yeah, I was like,
What you said something about like learning life lessons
mhm,
before, and like getting yelled at by your link shell leader.
yeah,
I remember, and I again, like, being younger and being like a kid, not like really understanding how things work. But I remember, there's an Elvon that ran the link shell, um, back on Alexander. His name, people, the old school Alexander people might remember. This guy's name was Kai Belf.
Kybelf.
Um,
Okay.
Kai Belf was his name, and he's always super helpful, always like, helping people finish missions and offering to, do whatever to help people progress. Um, and he offered to help us finish rank 6.
Mhm,
Um, and a lot of us were like, we still had to do Magicite, and so like we spent all day running around doing Magicite, uh, you know, getting to rank 4, getting to rank 5, and then we got to the castle climb, where you have to get up to the Shadow Lord,
right.
and like we were all so pumped and we were so excited, and I was on Warrior at the time, and it must have been in December, because I at the time was still relatively new, and I did not have any usable head armor. I didn't have a helm of
Oh
any type.
yeah, yeah.
And so I was wearing the Santa hat, which is just like a level
Level
one
one.
defense thing.
Yeah, I mean, what else were you
Um
supposed to do?
yeah, yeah,
Nobody
yeah.
had all the
And
slots.
we had been running around literally all day, and I didn't check my inventory or my slots. And so as we were going up the castle, I ran out of silent oils
Oh no.
and like got lost and got left behind. And, somebody else died, and then I died, and he's trying to track everybody down. And I remember the first time like a stranger or like somebody on the internet like yelled at me. This guy's like, "What the fuck? Why you like? I told you guys to check your inventory. Why are
Mhm.
you wearing a fucking Santa hat?" And I'm like, "I'm sorry."
Oh no.
Getting berated was like
Yeah.
the thing that it just everyone was so strict about all the
Mhm.
stupidest things.
Yeah, and
Like
we didn't
I
know any
remember
better.
an EXP camp at the Big Rock in West Altep, and
Mhm.
someone was just like so strict about what beetles you could pull, and you have to pull from these two tunnels, and if you go from somewhere else, we're just gonna let you die, and all this crap.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I do have a very specific memory of. Do you guys remember how hard it was to make gil back then?
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was always broke. And I remember one time I saved up to 44,000 gil, and I was like, dude, I have so much fucking money.
Oh
And
my God.
my buddy was like, hey, you should start spending like this free time that you have farming more and like make some gil. And
Mhm.
I was like, dude, you know I have 44,000 gil on me. I'm rich as fuck. And she was
I could
just
almost buy a Halberdian.
yeah, just not under, and this was back when I think my highest character was like level 35 or something.
Yeah.
And just not understanding like the overall, like not only like what was going on with money, but just like the social norms that were going on, like complaining in link shell chat all the time, like why can't anybody take me through Prometheans, I don't know what the fuck I'm
Yeah.
supposed to do, blah 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 blah. Just looking back on it, it's like such formative years, but also kind of cringy.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have had it any other way, you know. I kind of
Yeah.
grew up on this game, but it was a lot of fun.
As I hinted at earlier, like I was such an elitist with the gear.
Yeah, I can see
Um,
that.
leveling up Ranger, like I had to have the Brigandine +1 at 45.
Yeah.
Or if I dinged 45 and I didn't have it, I had to leave the party. Like
Oh no.
I had to have Hawkers +1s. I had to
Hmm.
have the
Sorry guys, I
Arrival
gotta go get
Pro.
my +1 gear. I gotta go farm
Yeah,
up.
Like
let me go farm
so
roll and
I had the camp
barrier.
constantly. Like
Hmm.
I lived in Devoy farming the Archer's Knife, farming
Yeah.
Hmm.
the Jujutsu Gi, and I only played Ranger too. So it was like I could shadow bind stuff and I could wide scan and camp NM,
Yeah.
so I was like good at
Yeah.
camping. But killing the thing as a Ranger wasn't always the easiest thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Did you try to
I
solo King Arthur back then, or what? I think it's
Uh,
King
I mean,
Arthur.
King Arthur and other H&Ms, I had a shell, and
nice.
but like,
Which is the crab in Boyata Tree that drops the axe? Was it?
oh, you're talking about Aquarius. I
Yeah,
had
the
the
Yeah,
axe.
Aquarius.
Aquarius.
Yeah,
That's what I was thinking.
Francisca.
Hmm.
Francisca
Yeah.
was a great axe, dude.
Yeah, yeah, it was. I remember that thing being. I was being so pumped
Dinging
for
up then
that thing.
and getting that axe was like
Hmm.
fantastic.
Absolutely.
There were so many like cool tools, but like even at 75, 90% of the time I was using a Vulcan staff.
Okay.
Oh yeah, back in the day, because you needed the like strength or whatever on it for
It was
weapon
like
skills,
strength
right?
and 10 range
Yeah.
attack.
Yeah.
Yeah. I I always did like I never really did too much NM camping because I just had no hope. You know what I mean? I remember going out and trying to camp stuff and Ochido's Kote or something. I really wanted to get him.
Midegi the Punisher.
And yeah, and I remember like going out, I was camping there all day, and you like, you don't know the placeholder and you don't know the time of death, all this other stuff. And I was just camping there all day and like literally like the situation where there was a like a Japanese player there. And I don't know if this was ever substantiated, but the
But they
claim
had
that
better
like
ping.
they had better ping, they're closer to the server, so they could claim it before. And like I literally watched hit the NM spawn in front of me with a pink name, and I was just like, you know what, fuck
So
this, I'm never doing
frustrating.
this again. Yeah. And so I would do the slow, like I would farm tiger fangs, and I would farm
Mm.
silk thread and stuff like that, just to like sell for 2,000 gil for
Did you
a
guys ever do
stack
the
or
thing
whatever.
back in the
Yeah,
day where like you would pull up an article on like FFXI, not Clopedia, Alakazam on Alakazam, the
yeah,
old
Hmm.
website, and you'd like
yeah.
print out the page as a guide, and you'd have the printed page. I did
I
that all the
I
time.
never did that,
Oh, that I
but
never did taxi service scrapes. That was a iconic
oh
white mage
yeah.
taxi service.
Taxi servicing was like super profitable. Like I
Yeah,
was
Mhm.
jealous of white mages, but I never wanted to play white mage.
yeah.
Also,
So
like just having warps was really profitable.
like funny side story, my buddy that got me into the game, he was always like way more advanced than I was, and he was a white mage main. And at one point, I talked him into letting me use his character and just doing taxi services so I could make money. And
Oh,
while
nice.
he wasn't around, and I remember after like a couple weeks of doing that, he was just like, "Hey, I don't want you to use my character anymore." And I was like, "Fuck, man, that was how I was making all my money." So obviously, what I did is I logged in anyway when I thought he wasn't around, and I think I was like 14 years old at the time, and I was like doing the taxi services,
Just need a
and
couple hits. I just need a couple hits,
yeah,
man.
yeah,
Come
yeah. I was just like, I need the kill. I need it bad. And so I did a couple taxi services, and I remember like deboxing myself like 20 or 30K, and then he booted me. And I was like, "Oh fuck." And back then you could tell like when somebody was logged in. It wasn't
Yeah,
I can't remember what exactly told you, but I had it in my debox, and I messaged him, and I was like, haha, sorry, but I left you like 20K, and then And then I remember him sending me back, and he's like, "No, you actually left me like 60." And I was like, "You motherfucker, you got to the D box first." And I remember being so mad. But that was like a whole thing, like trying to make money back then. I ended up spending hours and hours in Zyta with the bats and the Goobers. That's how I made
Yep.
most of my money. But
Crazy.
Dex, where were you at when Treasures came out, and how did that rollout go for you?
Were you part of the okay? Before I even talk about that, were
Mhm.
you part of the knock me unconscious and warp me to Wajorum, and or were you like I gotta do the right way and get on the boat?
I took the boat.
I think I took the boat, but at the time, like I didn't know anything about
I
it.
w- I wish I like in hindsight,
Mhm.
I wish I got knocked out and just got warped there. Like it was like
Hmm.
100K or something super expensive.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
had nowhere
It
near
was
that
like
kind of money.
smuggle me in.
Yeah.
My buddy did it because he didn't give a shit. He just wanted to like get into it, and
Mhm.
he was like, "This is iconic. There's 300 people here, and we're all just
Oh
in the
my god.
wilderness, and we have to
Oh,
figure out how
fun.
to get to the town." And they're
Mhm.
like, people were just running along the walls, like together as a unit to get to the town, and
That's
people
so
were
funny.
dying along the way.
You're just waiting for somebody to take aggro of that one
Mhm.
wasp or whatever, so everybody can sprint past.
I take it
Serial
Um,
killer.
it
Hell yeah.
didn't warp you to the chocobo, like the lay point that has the
I
chocobo
feel like it
NPC.
gets you like really far south.
Mm, interesting.
I don't even think the chocobo was there at the time.
Mhm.
Maybe it was. The old Doom ring put you there.
Hmm.
Okay.
I don't remember. But I had been like at that point I had been a long time like I had made a static of my own to conquer COP and to get to
Right.
C and all that, which was like a journey of its own.
Oh yeah, that's crazy.
And
People
I
get
remember
stuck on the
so few
airship
people
fight
back
for the
then
longest
got to
time.
C. Like doing the bomb was a nightmare, doing the airship was a nightmare.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, my ranger was like end game, and then that content dropped, and I like fell in love with Blue Mage, and Ranger was no longer my thing.
Oh yeah.
Were you before we continue? Were you doing Sky before Chains came out?
Yes,
Okay. Wow. Well, excuse the fuck out of me. I didn't realize we had a big
Wow.
shot here.
I was a
Wow.
ranger who, as the Link Shell Ranger, you
Mhm.
have to go stand there and camp Zipanka.
Zapanka, which one
That's
is that?
crazy.
It's the golem that like roams
Oh,
around,
yeah, yeah. Okay, I gotcha.
or Alakami,
Mhm.
because Alakami back then there was no like diorite, the force spawn. It didn't
Oh,
exist back
okay.
then.
Right.
It was like a lottery. You had to like wide scan and hope it was there. Being Ranger was just you are the wide scan whore.
Mhm.
Go roam around those teleporters and check for Mother Globe. Okay,
Oh,
it's not up.
okay.
Okay, go roam around and check for this. So you just constantly get used as a wide scanner to go find things, and then if you see something up, the link shell runs there.
Mm,
I mean, my server might have been low pop. I'm not sure. I was on Garuda,
okay. I know
and this is before Garuda got merged with Lakshmi.
my highest level when TOAU came out was like 50.
Mm.
So what was that like from being like on the end game perspective, going from Chains of Promethea to TOAU?
I feel like TOAU's endgame, like most people didn't adopt it right away.
Mhm.
Um, you're talking about just the events themselves, or
Yeah,
like just
like, what did you guys do? Were you doing like Iron Her Jar right away? Were you camping you or H and M's,
very few people
ZNMs?
did assaults. I had to
Mm-hmm.
make my own static for it,
Mm-hmm.
and having a captain badge was mostly just like flex, and I
Oh
can
yeah.
enter Nigel Isle from any of these exits, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because there were so many tunnels that had the blue mage guarding it, and you
Mm-hmm.
had to have the captain badge.
Okay.
That was nice. Um, and M wise, I mean, I know a few people. We did a few Cerberuses and a few Hydras. I don't ever remember getting claim with my link shell on the Chimera.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
The
stuff was
Metaclaim was
crazy
like super
competitive
good back
at that in that era because they were like global spawns.
then.
Um,
Yep,
I
H&Ms,
remember
just like
so
H&M.
I was never really on like the end game track until much later. But a friend of mine, so I had met a, a few players sitting outside Garlage Citadel early on, like my first time to Garlage Citadel. Just everybody would sit at the entrance and put their flag up because it was like a leveling spot.
This is like what, level
And
35, 40?
yeah,
No, 30.
yeah. And it was around 30, 35, I think. Yeah.
Mhm.
And a friend, so these two guys were there on Samurai, Euphoria and Rapture, and they're brothers in real life. And we ended up like forming a party together and then hanging out. And like, we just joined up and became friends, added each other to our friends list.
Mhm.
And like I kept in touch with them. Like
Well, that's
Euphoria
awesome.
still comes into my Twitch chat every once in a while, which is awesome. And he was like, he ended up going on to like be the cutting edge end game link shell leader. Like he was
Ooh,
one of the first people on the server to have Excalibur and all this other stuff because he was running
that
Dynamis
was a
and
big
uh,
deal.
yeah,
That
That
yeah,
was
was
a
a big
really
deal.
big deal.
That
yeah,
was months of currency, and usually link
yeah,
shells just like hoarded the whole loot and
Yeah.
gave it to the paladin.
just funneling it
Mhm.
to the leader because that's the only way to do it.
It was
Yeah.
often the
Um,
leader, you're right.
yeah. And then and he was like um cutting edge, and they like basically they dominated all of the treasures H&M spawns on the
Mhm.
server at the time. And like I wasn't involved with it. I was still leveling up. When treasures came out, I decided to be a puppet master main.
Oh,
So I was
nice.
I was leveling puppet master.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I do recall, like, I remember going to a party in on Calibri,
Mhm.
and Puppet Master was already a meme. I remember leveling up, and we're fighting Calibri, and there's a dragoon and a ranger in the party, and
You have the
um,
sharp shot frame.
and I set up my Puppet Master correctly. I was doing all sharp shot,
Mhm.
I was doing all range attack, and I recall the tank being like, what the fuck? Why does the automaton keep pulling hate? And I was like, yes.
Yeah, get fucked. I'm too
Yeah.
Yeah.
strong.
That was my, and that was the highest moment I ever had on Puppet Master, and that's
Puppet
never.
Master was a cool job of It's like
It was
Yeah.
cool.
it was very misunderstood. No one
Mhm.
really knew how it functioned.
I had a ton
Yeah.
of fun playing it when it came out, and for some
Yeah.
reason, I remember being super into it and being like, "Yeah, I'm gonna fucking take this job to 75," and then I just stopped
Yeah.
playing it at level 22, and I never touched it again.
Dude, there were so many jobs that I was like the jack of all trades at level 20. Like I
Yeah.
had
Mhm.
every job 20 and like I just gave up on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But I was gonna say my friend, you ran the H&M link shell, and they would fight over
Cerberus.
Cerberus and
Mhm.
Kimara and all those things all the time. And eventually they were like, because they were on Alexander, and eventually they started getting competition from like another link shell, and it was creating all this like tension. And so I
Mhm.
think they actually transferred. I can't remember what server. It might have been Lakshmi or something like that. They basically chose a lower population server, and they went,
Mhm.
and everybody in the whole H&M link shell
Wow.
transferred on the same
That
day
happened a lot.
over.
Yeah.
They all moved over, and they totally destabilized this entire link
Because like
shell, or this
there's
entire
like an
server.
echelon
Yeah.
of like this link shell's the best, and then this link shell
Yeah.
gives them a little bit of competition.
Yeah.
And then like if you introduce a whole new gang of ragtag people, it becomes a
Yeah.
problem.
When I did get into endgame, there was like lore behind the link shells, and there
They
was like
all had
a
lore, whether you know it
yeah
or not.
yeah, and there was like a lineage. Like it was originally this link shell, but then the leader had to,
Hmm.
and
Someone scammed
they were
10
the
people,
best.
and then this one chick came in and she,
Yeah,
you know, catfished 5 people and
exactly.
stole all this
Oh, I have a story
skill.
about that too. Hold on, catfishing.
And I remember when I had an old friend come back like right before Abyssia era. I was like, yeah, man, I'm part of Black Roses. You've heard of them, right?
Oh,
And
I'm a big
they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I was like, it's kind of a big deal, okay? Like, come
yeah.
on, just give me the props. I'm kind of a big deal. But man, link shells were something else back then. What were you
No,
gonna go
the
for
nostalgia.
your
I realize that
catfishing?
nostalgia is about things from the past and what we've left behind. not 50-year-old games that you still play every day. Live, let us live in this moment.
Sometimes this game
We're
feels
still
50 years.
we're still living the nostalgia. All right.
No, so I had this was like probably Zillar, maybe COP.
Mhm.
I had been playing the game for a little bit, and probably early high school. One of the guys in my like real life friend group, we're talking before school. And he's like, "Oh yeah, what games are you playing?" I'm like, "Oh, I play this Final Fantasy 11 game."
Mhm.
And he's like, "Oh no way, I play Final Fantasy 11 too." And I was like, "Oh really? Holy crap!" He's like, "Yeah, I'm obsessed with it. I can't stop playing it." And I was like, "Oh, that's cool, man. What server do you play on?" And he's like, "Oh, Alexander." And I was like, "No
No
way.
way.
I play on Alexander too." Uh, and I was like, "Dude, we should group up. We should party sometime." And
Mhm.
he's like, "Ah, he got kind of weird." And I was
Yeah.
like, "What?" And he's like, "Well, yeah, we can team up, but if you I play a female character and I pretend to be a girl
Hell yeah.
um to get free stuff
Let's
and all this
fucking
stuff.
go.
So if you could not like just like
Don't
don't
air
let
me
anybody
out.
know that you know who I am
Yeah,
in real
yeah,
life. And I
absolutely.
was
Don't
like
fuck up my
it
hustle, dude.
yeah, and that was the first time I'd experienced that. I was like, "Oh my God." Like I didn't realize that this happened. But he literally had like all the gear. He had everything
Oh,
because he
It's all
flirted
gift.
with
yeah,
dudes on the internet.
absolutely. You got to
Yeah.
get ahead somehow. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, it was crazy.
That was
And
definitely a thing.
that was a thing back in the day, and I was actually shocked that it still happens to this day. I don't think it happens in 11 as much, but I played Star Wars: The Old Republic with some friends on stream last year. Um, One of our friends wanted us to play it, and we had a little group that started playing. Roy Kopp's gonna roll his eyes at me in chat in a moment because he got
Mhm.
really excited and kept playing, and we all stopped. But the um a guy in real life, is that what
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
for the
yeah,
actor?
that's the
Yeah.
accent.
yeah.
The and so we're playing, and like it's my friend Notorious Monster, who we do collabs with quite often, and me and Darth Kidius the Wise. And Darth Kidius
I love
is
that
a
name.
girl. Yeah, she's a girl. And she's playing a female character, and like her name is Darth Kitty or something like that. And we did a dungeon in Star Wars,
Mhm.
and like Kitty and I were the same level, started playing at the same time, and had just as much experience. And the random person that gets put in our party is like, and this is in 2024, is like, "Oh, so did you just start playing?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Oh no, not you. I was talking to her." Uh, and by the end of this fucking dungeon, he had traded her all this loot and a
Oh
mount and like
no.
all this stuff. And I'm like, "Hey, I'm new too. All right, bye."
Oh
You're doing it
man.
wrong. You should have just,
Yeah, I should
put
have.
boobs on your
Yeah,
character.
That's
yeah.
fucking
I should have been,
hilarious.
uh, made my female character alternate and catfish him, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah, make an
I've always been jealous
OnlyFans
of
for
those
your
people,
Mithra.
but I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Oh man. So, Hegmo, how was getting into treasures for you? What was that experience like?
Uh, I remember it coming out, and I think, I was just really excited about Puppet Master, honestly. Like, I don't, again, like,
Mhm.
even through Treasures, I don't think until Abyssia was I really like starting to get. Abyssia was the first time that I felt like I could participate in endgame stuff
Mhm.
because, like, it opened up leveling and I could level a bunch of jobs. A lot of
Yeah.
stuff was doable. And, like, I had a friend that I played Monk, Ninja, and Warrior at the time. And my friend played like blue mage, black mage, and mage jobs. And so like between the two of us, we could like proc everything.
Hell yeah.
And we could do us like he would heal with magic fruit, and I would be on monk tanking and doing DD and stuff.
Mhm.
And so like that opened up endgame to me in
Okay.
Abyssia. But Treasures was like I was still like, Treasures came out. I think I had 75 Warrior at the time, but like that was about it. And I didn't even do very many missions. I just like, oh, cool, I can play Puppet Master. And then I basically
Mhm.
soloed on Puppet Master and maybe had like 3 party invites the entire way up. But
Bro,
um, yeah,
Did you ever have the chance to get into Sky or any of that before Abyssia
yeah,
came out,
I
or no?
maybe maybe in like early days. I remember, so my friend Euphoria who ran the H&M link shell, he would like randomly send me a towel. And I remember one time he's like, "Hey, do you want to come to Dynamis?"
Hmm.
And I was like, I'm only level 72. And he's like, "Oh, the level cap 70, you can join." And I was like, "Oh, no way." And I was so nervous.
Hell yeah.
Cause like, I'm in this link
Yeah.
shell run and they're like communicating with each other using code languages and stuff,
I
you
don't
know what
want
I
to
mean?
be that
And
guy.
I'm like, 16 years old and I'm just
Mhm.
like sweating at my keyboard. Like I gotta impress them. I gotta
Yeah.
make sure they know that like,
Yeah.
I
but
feel like
I didn't
people from
really do
Garuda
like
and
too much
Lakshmi
end game. Yeah.
know me as the guy that never got the Scouts belt. Like,
Oh no.
because we would do dream runs like Dynamis,
Mhm.
Boobarimbu, and Kufim,
Mhm.
and I just never got the damn thing to drop. And whenever it would drop, someone else would win it. And I was like the Ranger main. I had the Hope
Oh
Torque. I had
no.
like everything,
Mhm.
and the Scout spell just eluded me. I remember like a year or two ago, one of my friends from Lakshmi was like, "It's Scout's belt, guy."
Oh no. I remember my very
Um,
first time in Dyna, I was a level 73 warrior and we wiped and I de-leveled. And I just
oh
remember
no.
I lost to the pants that I was wearing at the time and I like didn't want to say anything. But somebody checked me at one point and they were like, dude, where the fuck are your pants? And I was like, I'm
Oh
sorry.
no.
I
Yeah,
was like, I'm
yeah. I
sorry, I
leveled down.
de-leveled and I can't fucking wear, I don't have any other
I
pants.
didn't wear
What
my
do I do?
backup pants.
Yeah, yeah. Because I
Yeah.
sold them as soon as I got 73 because I was like, I need the gil. But oh
Yeah.
no, it
Talking about
was
endgame though, I wanna like there was this thing like if you played Sky at endgame
mhm.
when the Link Shell was ready to do Kieran, we had two alliances,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
inside alliance would be kiting Kieran
Yep.
so that he
Yep.
would like do deadly hold and miss constantly on the paladin,
Mhm.
and they had like mages and shit. Like
You
there'd
have your
be
monks boosting
so I was
boosting
gonna
for a
say
chi
you had the
blast.
outside
Yeah.
alliance, and there were samurais spamming meditate and getting ready
Yeah.
to put their party flag up, and you had monks boosting the 10 boost so that they
Yeah.
could chi blast it, and that's all they did the whole fight. Um, it was the craziest thing. But being a ranger, I had the privilege of being in the main alliance and just like shooting it the whole time for TP. It was great.
Wow.
My very first like real endgame event was Sky, and I went on
What Kibble
Paladin.
said's true.
It's very true. I went on Paladin Sub Ninja, and that was I remember tanking Byakko for the very first time, and back then I had like no gear. I think I started
Mhm.
wearing like artifact shit, but it was so much fun, and it felt so impactful. Just being able to tank for an alliance of people and then switching it back and forth between me and the other paladin, just
Yeah.
Mhm.
wild feeling for the very first time. And then, of course, when shadows drop and you get hit for 700 damage from Byakko and you start shitting your pants, you're like, "Oh my god, we're gonna wipe!" And then the Sam trick attacks the other tank, and you're like, "Oh, thank God."
Yeah. Thank God.
How did you
Yeah.
feel about Paladin back then? Because in my experience, like
Mhm.
most of the end game, like really difficult bosses, like Fafnir, Nidhogg, those ones, we had
Mhm.
a especially after Treasures, because Treasures introduced those swords, the Makuhedal, that gave the enmity
Yeah.
plus.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
Yeah.
after that, I remember a transition where we just stopped using paladins for almost everything, and we used Red Mage Sub Nin, and they would spam like blind bind a spell
Yeah.
to
Oh.
enmity,
Yeah.
and they would
So
be the tank.
so me coming up on Paladin was a little bit different. When Treasures rolled out, I was like a level 50 Paladin, and I remember one of the very first things I did in Treasures was get the Parade Gorget, and I was like, oh my god, I'm amazing. I have this latent refresh on Paladin. I'm the best Paladin in the world, but it was actually like doable. And then for there were like phases because besieged was a big deal back then, at least for me. It felt like I could play the end game content that was a little bit meaningful. You could get XP. I had a ton of fun doing that. And then my personal mission is I always wanted to be the paladin sub ninja in a vermilion cloak that could solo
Mm.
the imps. Like that was just
Yeah.
iconic to me. If you could spam swift blade enough to kill an imp at like level 70,
Well, I want to talk about that.
that was why not.
Dude, the imps, like piggybacking off Hegmo's journey on Pup solo.
Mhm.
By the time Blue Mage came out, like Blue Mage just like wrecked parties. It was disgusting.
Oh,
By
yeah.
level 18, you had bludgeon, and
Mhm.
you just
Oh
did
yeah, you just spam
more
bludgeon.
than any
Yeah.
weapon skill. You could just spam it. It was
Mhm.
insane.
Absolutely.
Um, so I remember like leveling Blue Mage, and at a certain point, I think it was like in the 40s. It was like, why am I waiting for a party? I can just go kill
Mhm.
goblin pets and get chain 20 and solo
Yeah.
myself, and I could do it whenever I want. Um, and I remember learning how to do that because my buddy on Garuda Gtrev, he was like one of the first mats caps on the server, and that's
Oh,
how he leveled a lot of his jobs.
okay. I
Like
leveled
he would
a scholar that way.
it was a pretty fun and effective way to do it. It was like a
Mhm.
mini game, and then like sometimes you aggro the goblin and you're like, I'm dead.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well,
But
that's
I
like
remember getting
Beastmasters and like dragoons would pull goblin pets and stuff like that, and solo with the healing breath.
that
All
was
the
really
little solo
strong.
strats are cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Well, like
remember seeing
they would sub
dragoons.
like red mage back then and spam Dia, but
Mhm.
then when blue mage came out, it would be dragoon spamming foot kick.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I remember that.
Yeah.
But I remember getting to the 70s on blue mage, and at that imp camp, I remember having a healing MP set that was like plus 60 healing MP, and no one uses that gear anymore. It's all trash.
Right.
But back then, it was so good. I would like disseverment, frenetic rip, kill an imp, hysteric barrage, and I would kill it really quickly, and then just rest my MP back for like 40 seconds, and then get up and kill another one to keep the chain going. I'd get to like chain 20 solo. It was so strong.
Mm. Did anything change for you when Wings of the Goddess came out for either of you? Because I feel like
Wings of the Goddess was
Wings.
weird.
What's that?
Wings of the Goddess was weird. I
Yeah.
don't think it changed anything,
Mhm.
and the end game of Wings of the Goddess was very non-existent. Like
Yeah.
the end game of Wings was, wow, Ixian's up, let's go get it,
Yeah.
or
Mhm.
Sandworm's up, and most people didn't bother doing it. Like
Yeah.
Sandworm, you really wanted to get sucked in and get the King Arthro so that more speed belts existed.
Mhm.
But other than that, there really wasn't any end game. It was kind of like a weird era of the game in my mind because
Yeah.
it was one of the first times with big expansions where they just really slowly trickled it to us.
Mhm.
We
hmm
didn't really get a lot of meat on the bone with that expansion,
I remember
and
doing campaign ops like
Yeah.
your
crazy.
campaign ops
Yeah.
were
I
like the
fucking
thing
love.
to
I
do.
love campaign ops. Like I'd just go because it was again. It was, but this was before Abyssia. So like, but it was like a community event that would happen, and I
Mhm.
felt like I could make EXP solo by doing
Mhm.
campaign ops and stuff like that. Even though it was slow and it was ridiculous, but like I love doing campaign ops. I would do them all night, just like waiting for a party invite, but doing campaign ops in between.
A lot of my alt jobs, I just would dump EXP on through campaign ops and
Mm,
campaign itself.
Yeah.
yeah.
Campaign was a ton of fun, especially like pre 75. And it was really the first time, at least for me, that you could go out solo and do content that you'd get XP from. You'd like whether you're actually in a group or not, it felt like there was like a group effort that was contributing to this overall like server content, and I had a lot of fun doing it. It was one of my favorite things when that came out. And
I
Scholar
think
was my
campaign was
yeah, Scholar was the very first mage job that I ever got interested in. So I really liked Wings a lot.
I remember when Scholar came out, I was like, this is way too complicated for my puny brain.
See, I always just wanted when I was playing Scholar, I I think I was like 16 at the time, and my only goal the entire time was to let black mages know that I was better than them. So I just like went out of my way, and I remember I was that asshole that would like post the damage like of the stuff in link shell chat, because that was whenever somebody would like brag about their character, I'd like show up and be like, well, watch this, I'll do it fucking better.
So by that point in the game, you were like in endgame shells and doing like activities, right?
Yeah, so I started getting into Endgame as Wings came out. Like I was doing Sky a lot. I was doing Iron Jar was a big one. Dynamis. I never made it to Olympus before Abyssia era, and at that point there was kind of like no really no real points of going to Limbus.
Yeah.
But
Sort of like now.
yeah. Well, no. Hey now, hey now. Come on, don't
I
fuck
loved
me.
Limbus back in the day.
Yeah, I enjoy Limbus now. I like it.
There was a lot of gear that when you +1 the AF, it was very good, like the Ranger hands, for example.
Oh yeah.
Man, I remember seeing, because like again, like a COP era, all that stuff. I was not at the end game level, so like I would see people with +1 AF, and I'd be like, oh my god, wow,
Yeah.
The +1 relic
what?
too was really tough. You had to do Dreamlands for it.
Yeah,
You had to get the -1 piece and then convert. It was such a pain.
Yeah, and Dreamlands were scary. At least for me, like I was fucking scared when you'd go in those zones and you're running through and you're like,
yeah.
oh my god, I feel
My
like I'm
link
gonna
show
die
only did
anytime.
Diabolos
Hmm.
once or twice, and it was a nightmare. Like doing Tavnasia was something. It was iconic because
Hmm.
it was something that was so hard that it was never worth the time or effort. And like you had to have the right people online to even think about it because you had to have like the super try hard people online.
Yeah. So funny story when I got into I did like a casual endgame link shell, but the first time I got into like a real like hardcore, you remember having to like apply to link shells and stuff back then, and
Yeah,
Yeah.
you'd have to like
you have
fill
to
out
get you have to
the
give them a resume.
yeah, you'd have to fill out like what jobs you have, what gear you have, and stuff like that. And I remember the reason I got into my serious end game link shell, and this is how I got into like Einherjar and got some H&Ms and stuff like that, was because I was that guy. I would go out and kite King Vinegaroon for hours until somebody from the link shell could show up and kill it, and they could get the aces home.
Well, you had
That's
to do that because
yeah.
if the weather went away, he would go away.
So I'd go out there, and that's how I sucked up to them to get my end game. And I was like 18 at the time, and I remember one time I was driving home from my first job at Walmart, and I was like, oh fuck, the King Vinegaroon window is opening, and I was driving like 90 miles an hour on the freeway. I was like, I gotta get this. Totally
Being
irresponsible.
extra reckless.
Yeah, but you had to get into that end game shell. I wanted to get the DKP from my Biakos Hadate. It's important stuff back then.
DKP was crazy. I remember
Yeah.
doing like Omega, and if the hind leg dropped and you were on it,
Oh
you were
yeah.
Mhm.
stoked.
Absolutely.
Or like the eye. For
Well,
Did you do
it's
sure.
like
salvage?
I did not do salvage,
Mm,
I
and
didn't
I
salvage
avoided
either.
the band waves of like the super super crazy hardcore people who
okay.
were like ahead of
Yeah,
the
exploiting
curve and
stuff. Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
I remember when that
I
band wave dropped, it like super affected the
yeah
end game
Mhm.
environment. Like
yeah.
most of the hardcore link shells got hit way too hard, and
Well, also like a lot of like even in like H&M claims, like they were doing shady stuff. Like
yeah, they were using
uh
manta.
yeah. Roy Kopp said earlier, he's like, I made it to I was next on the list for Byaku's Haidate and my link shell dissolved.
Oh no.
And so like
Yeah.
that was the problem with like DKP and stuff like that, is
Yeah.
like, and all those things where like you'd be funneling dynamis currency to the link shell leader for 6 months, and they'd get their thing and then suddenly they'd quit. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
I
Like, oh, I'm
remember
not,
Yeah. Yeah,
I
absolutely.
remember in a Skylink shell, like you could supplement DKP by like outside of link shell event, going out of your way and getting
Oh
like a
yeah.
Cortana
Yeah, you
or
could
getting
give them pops for a certain amount of points.
if you farmed a rock or something, or like you did a steam
yeah.
cleaner, you could get
Mhm.
them extra DKP, and then suddenly you'd show up to event time, you'd have like 20 more than the guy that had the right to lot on the thing. I was like, no.
Mhm. Oh man, those were fun days. So one of my very first H&M experiences, and I'll never forget this until I die. Um, Behemoth window was open,
Oh
and
god.
King Behemoth popped, and apparently it was
Oh,
right behind me, but it was like
he's
I
right behind me, isn't
but I couldn't see him on my screen was the problem.
he?
So like my camera was facing the wrong way, and then everybody started screaming, and I turned around and somebody with a claim bot had gotten to it, and they all
No.
started yelling at me that I should have been the one to claim it, and a D ring dropped. of course, to the other League shop.
Oh, of course it did.
And
Those
so
are so rare.
I swear to God, for years they were like they would fucking bring that up and just berate me because I didn't fucking see King Behemoth.
Yeah. What were you thinking?
Yeah, no, I know. I
Oh,
don't.
so wait, that trend has existed in your life because for
Mhm.
years I make fun of you for that Odin event.
That was hilarious too. That's a good one. But well, that's a little more recent nostalgia.
That's another time.
Yeah. Oh man. So Dex, how was Abyssia for you when it rolled out?
I love the Bizia.
Yeah. See, that's
Um,
interesting because a lot of people from 75 era, they'll especially like the hardcore endgame people
Yeah,
didn't
people that
like
were in
you're
Endgame.
doing a
Abyssia.
hard
Yeah.
jump though, because there was so much that happened before Bizia. There was like those 3 mini expansions that came
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, Moogle Koopa de Tot
Mhm.
and all those.
You could buy them a la carte, and like
Yep.
people went and got their helmet and their body and their legs.
Yeah.
Anwig Salat
Those
and
were
all
kind
those things.
of those were kind of a nightmare when they came out. The end
They,
fights
the,
were
the
hard.
Moogle
Yeah.
one in particular was a
Mhm.
nightmare to do.
Yeah.
I remember doing the Crystalline Prophecy boss, and it was super fun because
Mhm.
we got like 3 end game rangers and just had one
Hmm.
person sit on it and tank and just shoot, so it
Mhm.
didn't do anything. It was really fun to like circumvent that.
There you go.
But yeah, Bizia came
Yeah,
out and I
getting
was
the
hyped as shit
Puppet Master
because
augmented gear.
yeah, I remember Bizia came out and I was hyped as shit because new blue spells, dude. Like I gotta
Oh
go get
Oh
yeah.
them.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
There you go. That was a
Yeah,
trip.
I think that there's like, it is interesting because like I feel like a lot of the people that were invested in the hardcore end game, the idea of the level cap going up, all of your iconic gear being negated, all this other
Mhm.
stuff no longer matters because all that stuff. But then, there were people like me that hadn't really participated in end game, and like it finally opened up so much for me. Like suddenly I could participate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like I look back on Abyssia fondly, uh,
I do as
being able to
well.
reforge gear and everything.
It definitely what Talon is saying in the chat, like
Mhm.
it definitely killed most
Mhm.
H&M link shells because not
Mhm.
only did the old school gear get like kind of slept on or set to the
Just
side, there were so
outclassed.
many pieces of gear that were outclassed,
Mhm.
Yeah.
but also like the entry level was so low. Like you could do the hardest fights or most of them with 1 or 2 parties, not 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we got into Abyssia and we started getting Atmas, and he went from doing 800 damage weapon skills to three
Oh my
to
god.
three
Bro,
thousand
back then,
plus.
Raised
Yep.
Ruin.
Yeah,
Oh my
raised ruin was
Yep.
amazing. The critical hit stuff.
Voracious Violet,
Um,
Raise
yep, those,
Ruin.
yeah, and
those were the
and
2 big ones.
the re-raise one with triple attack. I can't remember the
Yeah.
name of it now, but
Was that the
those
one from
were.
Shinryu?
I think
Or
that's the
was that
Shinryu one. That was
Was
way
it?
Yeah.
later.
Was it the Shinryu one? I think it was Apocalypse something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's Shinryu. That was way
Okay.
later.
Yeah,
That was at the
but
end of the Abyssia line.
those Atmas were incredible back then.
Going back
Yeah.
to what I was saying earlier, you were
Mhm,
talking about Wings.
mhm,
Wings was so bad with how poorly it was released that we got the 3 mini expansions.
mhm.
We got Abyssia level 80, level 85, level 90, and then 99 release, right?
Right.
Yeah.
All that way until 99, we didn't get the Lilith fight. So we didn't get the
Oh my
finishing
god.
of
Yeah.
Wings of the
Oh
Goddess.
man,
It
yeah,
took all the way till the end of Abyssia for them to release the end of Wings of the Goddess.
that's really funny.
Yeah.
I forgot about that because I wasn't really doing any of those stories back then.
Right.
I just wanted to do Sky, and I was still, I think I was still working on Chains of Promethea back then.
Yeah.
Most
But
of my friends had quit during Abyssia because I don't know, they just got burnt out. I was
yeah,
more always like the hardcore, like I'm a loser, I play this game all the time kind of guy.
yeah, Abyssia is
But
where I got hardcore.
I remember my buddies
Yeah.
would come back on during each leg of it
Mhm.
to do the new Wings of the Goddess, just to do the story, and
Yeah,
then quit
Mhm.
again.
and then quit again. That's funny. That's kind of like
I remember when it
I know.
dropped, we like trioed it.
I know some people that kind of did the same thing with like Odyssey more recently as it was coming out. They'd do, V15 and then quit until V20 came in, and then they'd power through V20 as fast as they can and then quit until 25 came out. Just
Hmm.
that I think that just depends on what kind of player you are more than anything about the game itself. If you enjoy doing the new challenging content, then you're going to be here for it. But if there's nothing else to keep you around, then go take a break. Game will still
I
be
just
here.
want to
Yeah.
note. I just noticed
Mhm.
all three of us are just doing laps in town or just hanging around.
Yeah. Well, I killed the frog for my trial, so now I have to wait 90 minutes before it can respawn. Normally this is my Farsha trial time, but
Nice.
now
Hell yeah.
the window is kind of far, so
Far shot. How far are you into your far shot?
not very.
Man,
I
okay, that's a nostalgic moment. Remember when Empyrean weapons came out?
Dude, Ninja
yes.
was king
Oh my
for the
gosh.
first
Yeah.
time. Ninja was king.
I
Yeah.
remember looking at Ukon, and at the time it was just 80 cap, so there was no stats on it. There was no unique weapon
Yeah.
skill, and I was like, I don't care what happens to this great axe. I'm gonna fucking get it because it looks
Yeah.
amazing. It's like this could
Oh
be
yeah.
absolute trash when the 85 rolls out. But I started figuring out like how to farm Glavoid. I remember doing shout groups for Glavoid, and I would get an alliance of people. My selling point would be everything's free lot except for the shells, and we'll proc it so you guys get the Atma. And I remember the very first time I did it, somebody lotted one of the Glavoid shells after I
Oh
farmed the
no.
pop, and I very nearly like had a meltdown because that was hard, man. I
Yeah.
was like, listen here, you motherfucker. There's no way in hell you're never gonna get 50 shells. I'm working on this. I already have 9.
Yeah.
You better pass that shit.
When
But
they added those weapons and weapon skills, like some of them just broke the game. Like
mhm.
Almace with CDC was like
Oh yeah.
untouchable with Raised Ruin. It
Mhm.
was so
Yeah.
powerful.
I remember hitting my very first 10k weapon skill with Ukos, and it
Oh
was
my
it
god.
was unbelievable.
That's insane. I mean, I remember when they added the Empyrean weapon chains. This is one of those other like memories that's just burned into my head
Mhm.
of like feeling so betrayed and like never been more angry at a video game. And I was super excited because I'm like, oh, I can start working on this ultimate weapon. It seems like it's relatively achievable. And I'd like read about how it works, and oh, we just need to kill X and M's. And literally the very first one, working on Varith Ragna, because I was playing Monk and I was playing Puppet Master at the time.
Yeah.
And I go out to Lathine Plateau, and the content was brand new. So there's tons of people camping Trembling Truffle. And I'm sending tells to everybody. I was like, hey, you want to group up? I don't need I don't think it's loot or anything. I just need the kill credit. And nobody would even answer me. Like, no, we can
I
team
hated
up. Like, why are we being so?
Yeah.
And like, I got
Yeah.
so mad.
Mhm.
I just got so mad because it's like, this doesn't make any sense. We should be working, like, we could make an alliance.
Yeah.
Why are we fighting over
Speaking
this
of that
pop?
content, just yesterday I
Yeah.
was farming my Twashtar and I was killing Orthrus. And
Oh
Yeah.
some
yeah.
dude claimed the tiger,
Mhm.
Ashnarek or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that NM doesn't need a proc. It just has a drop that you need like Treasure Hunter for. And
Yeah.
he claimed it and sat on it for 45 minutes trying to
Oh
red
my
proc it.
God.
Oh
And I'm
my
like, dude, just
gosh.
please just kill it.
Just
You're
kill it.
wasting both of our
Yeah.
time. Please, God, just kill it. He's like, his response was, you don't pay for my sub. And I was like, okay.
Oh
Oh.
my, wow. In
Man.
2025. Oh my
Like
God.
at
At
that
that,
point, I would rather give you the $12 so you could
I
just get
warped
the
out. I was
fuck.
like, this is
Yeah.
not worth
Like
my time.
just
That's
You're
stop
like
like,
you,
do
wasting
you
you
your
saying
want,
time.
do
that
you
totally
want me to
reminded me
pay?
of that event. It was like
I'll
nothing has
send you
changed.
$12 if you just let me get this Tiger King
Yeah.
Abyssea
fight,
is
man.
in that it brings out the worst in people.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I remember some of the very like the worst fights that I've been in, like in Link Shell drama and stuff, were during the Abyssea era. There's like this one guy that I just had a feud with in my Link Shell for some reason. I can't even remember why. I just my elitist was starting to come out, and now 10 plus years later, it's fully evolved into like just this out of control monster. But
Yeah,
back then, it was like little 17-year-old elitist myth, and
yeah,
I remember there was one neck piece from Abyssea, and it like worked well because it would like give you a refresh, but only if your HP wasn't capped or something. And I was like, oh, this is perfect for Scholar because sublimation, blah 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 blah. I can't remember
Oh
his.
yeah, yeah.
And I remember the other guy was a Scholar too, and that neck drop, and I was like, oh, dope, I want that. And he was like, why do you want that? And I was like, if you don't even know, then fuck you, because
Yeah.
you're bad. And that was like a whole thing.
And he beats them a
But
lot.
yeah, I remember that specific because I was a sack holder at the time. I had worked my way up to being an officer in this end game link shell, and one of the other sack holders was like, "Dude, you're being a fucking asshole." I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, you're a sack holder. You need to stop being a dick to people. I was like, "Oh, okay." And I was like, just
There's
another
nothing
one of
Oh,
those life
I thought this
lessons.
I thought this entitled me to be an
Yeah,
asshole.
that's.
I'm really confused.
I was like,
I'm just a bad
do you
bro.
know who I am? Like,
Yeah.
like, I was like, dude, I don't want to intimidate you, but I'm kind of a big deal around here, okay?
Yeah.
And no, but yeah,
Myth pulls up in the little Tyke's bicycle, and he's like, "Respect my authority."
yeah. And looking back on it, and I was like, wow, you're such a little fucking dweeb when you were 17 years old. Oh my god. But Abyssio was
There's
a
so
ton of
many
fun.
there's so many things that like I wish that I could like sometimes I wish I could go back and like see
Hmm.
and like experience and like see the forum posts or whatever. Somebody said something about like Alexander drama and all this other stuff. There was like
Oh
iconic
yeah.
websites and stuff. But at the same time, I'm like, God, it's like I probably participated in all that shit in the worst way. I can't remember anything on Final Fantasy. I do know to go. It's just briefly off topic. I played a lot of World of Warcraft
Hmm.
early days too, and I remember like just there were just flame forums where like people would make fun of they'd pull up your
Hmm.
profile
Yeah.
on MySpace or whatever, and they'd just flame you. Some guy said I looked like Pee Wee Herman once, and I was like, it was the first time a
Oh
stranger
no.
on the stranger on the internet insulted me, and I was
Oh
just like
man.
so upset about it.
So when I got into one of my endgame link shells, we had a website. This is like a Biscuit era, and you could opt to like post a picture of yourself on this
Yeah,
website. And so me being
yeah,
like I think I was 18 at the time, me being like an edgy emo kid, I was like, yeah, dude, I'm gonna show all these people how
yeah.
much better looking I am than they are. And I like posted one of my senior pictures on there, and I remember thinking I was so fucking cool at the time, and that was just looking back on it. Could you imagine posting a picture of yourself on a website for an
Yeah,
online game that you play? Just like a bunch of strangers? That's such fucking weird
yeah.
You're
behavior.
just asking to get roasted.
Could you
Yeah,
imagine
yeah.
like, and like for like hours a day recording yourself playing it and like putting it out there on the
Yeah.
internet in
For
front? Yeah.
In front
exactly.
of hundreds of people.
I just want everybody to know, like, everybody that's listening, like, I share these stories because I think they're hilarious and I deserve to be made fun of for them. So I'm waiting for the comments to be like, oh my god, I can't believe you did that, and I'm just gonna say, yeah, I can't believe I did that either. It was fucking stupid as shit.
Were you guys
But
TeamSpeak or Ventrilo?
Ventrilo,
Ventrilo.
Oh, Ventrilo
100%,
was the best.
it
I remember
was.
there was this one iconic like group of people that I would play with. It was like a link shell thing, but we also were like on the side friends, and we all like collectively bullied this one friend of ours. And on Ventrilo, whenever I was the guy who had the record button hovered at all times,
Oh
and we just
jeez.
make sound clips of him
Yeah.
and play them on repeat, and I would send out the files to everybody.
Oh my gosh.
It was
So
just the best.
so after Abyssia, Void Watch is when I started to taper off the game.
Void Watch
Um,
was the worst content the game ever added.
yeah,
I'll
well,
fight anyone.
Yeah, Void Watch. Yeah.
I remember I'm like slaved through Abyssia and I made an O chain because I wanted to play Paladin more. And I couldn't afford an Aegis still because they were still hard to do. And I remember going to Void Watch thinking, oh, I'm the coolest guy ever. I have a fucking O chain. And then just getting absolutely demolished
Yep.
by all of the magic stuff. And I remember getting so mad. And like it got to the point where like our link shell leader wasn't active anymore. So I was like trying to run events and I just got tired of it. And I stopped playing I think it was the Mantis in like Behemoth's Dominion, if I
I
remember
remember
that
him.
right. Yeah, he
Yep.
was he was what broke me and drove me to quit. And I
Problem
quit
with that
for a long
content
time. Hmm.
was how bad the drop rates were. Like you could
Mm,
do that content, you could fight the same NM with an alliance of people, and it took a while to get that alliance. You could
mm,
fight it 50 times and never get the damn thing from the chest, and all your buddies who
Yeah.
don't want the drop are like, I got it,
yeah.
Yeah.
and it didn't share a pool, so it was just so
And
horrible.
going from Abyssia to that was just really, really bad feeling. The
So
content wasn't
we skipped
adjusted
over
for.
it, but you guys didn't play Maze Mongers in the 75 before.
No, I didn't
No,
play Maze
no, I didn't
Mongers.
play
Yeah,
Maze
no.
Mongers at all.
Maze
I
Mongers was
remember when it
like
came out,
fun.
and I maybe
For
did a
all
couple times
Mhm.
with a friend of mine. Maybe did it a couple times, but like it just seems it's still to this day. I don't understand the
Yeah.
There
core
were Maze
mechanic of
Mongers
it. I was
EXP
just
parties. You could set
Oh.
your runes a certain way, and then
yeah.
like go in and just blast a bunch of EXP mobs and be done with it. And you get marbles, and it was like good
Yeah.
EXP, like Calibri Camp XP levels.
Mm, okay. Yeah, I never did Maze Mongers until I came back. And
There
I
was only like a handful of NMs that were worth it though. Like they had like
yeah,
really niche drops.
I think
That's why it was popular.
the body to give 2% MP back from nuking was a big deal for Scholar.
That was from
Was
different content.
oh, was it? Okay, then
That was
I've
People
got it mixed
Burrows.
up. Okay, see, Maze Mongers and Meeple Pros,
Yeah.
they're in my head they're the same thing. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
Kibble said it. Maze Mongers, like one of the
mhm,
main things I know people
Inuk.
did was the Beetle, which dropped the Cogglemander, which was Blue Mage's like
Yeah.
okay,
sword.
interesting. So when did you
Crazy.
guys first quit, and how long was your breaks?
Wave 3 of Void Watch. I started playing
Oh
other MMOs
wow.
a lot more.
Okay.
I
I
mean,
got
I
really sick
think
of Void Watch.
so I stopped playing Final Fantasy 11 briefly
Mhm.
before like in Rise of the Zillar.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Like I started playing and then one of my the friend that I joined with that I met up and like we were on different servers.
Mhm.
He got to level 30, unlocked Samurai. He was playing a Mithra. He unlocked Samurai. That was his whole dream for Final Fantasy 11 was to play Samurai.
Of course.
And he um went out into South Gooseberg, fought like 5 mobs, and the next day I was like, "Hey, like, so you got Samurai? How's it? Like, what level did you get to?" He's like, got to like level 4 or 5, and I don't know, I hate it." And I was like, "What? Like,
Got to level
maybe
4 or
like,
5.
yeah." I was
Oh
like, "I
no.
don't know. Do like maybe like
I feel
doesn't
like
don't
the
you get
leveling
like
experience for Samurai was tough because he was
yeah."
so slow attacking.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I was like, I don't like you'll get meditate. I think isn't that the big reason? Like you get
Eventually.
meditate and like all the other abilities. He's like, no, it's not that. It's just, the way my Mithra holds the great katana,
Oh,
like I feel
really?
like I'm swinging a baseball
It was an
bat. And
aesthetic
I
thing
hate it. Yeah, and so he quit the game.
Oh no.
over that?
And so he went and he started playing World of Warcraft. And everybody was talking about World of
Mm,
Warcraft. So I left to play World of Warcraft for a little bit, like way back in
yeah.
the original early days. Um and that was the first time I quit. I actually came back to the game and
Mhm.
I created a brand new character when I came back to Final Fantasy 11. I made a Hume,
Oh,
and
nice.
I made a Hume character, and I got up to like I was like harassing my link shell again, and I was like, hey, like, can anybody help me with missions? And they're like, hey, there aren't like, and somebody who knew who I was like, why didn't you just play your other character?
Mhm.
Why are you restarting? And I was like, oh, because I canceled it. He's like,
Yeah.
you deleted your character or you
Yeah.
canceled your subscription. I was like, I canceled it. He's like, you can restart it. And I was like, what? So yeah, I
Yeah.
came back and I'm sure that character exists somewhere. I don't even know
The
how I'd
Hume?
find the credentials for it, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Is it called Heghmoh? And
I
somebody
can't remember. I don't even remember what his name was. It
is
had to be something similar to
Was this
my.
like very
my
shortly
name.
after you had quit, or is it like a full expansion later?
I think it was probably like
Mhm.
maybe COP had come out at that point, but it was pretty pretty close. But yeah, and then
I was
I bounced back and forth between World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy 11 for like
back in that day,
a
I was like
decade.
super pretentious about 11. Like I was like, this game looks so much better than WoW. WoW is like cartoony
Mm,
and like
Mhm.
polygony. Fuck that stupid game. It's so popular. It's dumb. Like
yeah.
I'm the
You're
pretentious like
the
silly guy playing the game that no one else is like
Yeah.
playing.
Mhm.
All
You're
my friends play
My
WoW,
you're the
and I
my
was
MMO
Japanese
connoisseur.
MMO is so much better than the
I was
Yeah.
the guy in the corner of the party with the drink. Like they don't know I'm
Mhm.
playing 11.
yeah.
Oh man, I quit at least 4 times, I think. The very
Really?
first time I quit was for a year or 2, and I remember it was when my paladin just got to Crawler's Nest, and I just kinda, like, ran out of steam, and it took me a long time to learn to not give away all of my stuff when I was quitting.
Oh yeah, you
Uh,
just gave
yeah,
away all
yeah,
your
so
yeah.
at least 2 or 3 times, I gave away everything that I had, and I
So I was gonna
remember.
ask
Mhm.
you were everyone's saying quit, but we all come back.
Right, right.
But
So
you intended to quit because you gave your stuff away.
yeah, yeah, so
That's what's actually
I
quitting.
was expecting to never come back,
What
and
triggered those moments? Like, so mad, fuck this shit.
no,
Here,
no,
take
it wasn't that, I was just like, "I think I'm done," you know? I'm not really enjoying what I'm doing right now, I just kinda don't wanna do it, I think this is it for me, I think I've ran my course in 11, and I
I
remember.
feel like I was so young that I
Mhm,
didn't have the foresight to be like,
mm,
I'm really not enjoying this moment and I'm gonna
yeah.
step away.
See, I remember coming back as I think I was level 44 and being a completely naked paladin and thinking, how the fuck am I going to play this game again? And I got like an NPC sword and I fucking went out and I killed crawlers for silk thread until I could buy all the gear that I needed to start XPing again. And it was a terrible, terrible experience. But I came back until I want to say I quit again right around maybe before Wings came out. And this time I didn't learn my lesson. I was doing a little bit of endgame and I gave away all like 1.5 mil that I had, which was a lot of money back then, and gave away all my stuff. And then a third time I came, or a second time I came back and I was like, damn, I have nothing anymore. But it
Brutal.
was, yeah. Dex, when did you take your break?
I think it was when Bismarck came out. I think that's the COP wing of
Oh, Void
Void
Watch?
Watch.
Hmm.
I got so fed up because I was farming the set that Blue Mage was on that had like it was like the Homam replacement. It had crit rate and haste and all that,
Hmm.
and I could not get the drops, and no one else was doing anything interesting.
Yeah.
I remember running an SCNM link shell at the time, and we did like Sky, C, and SCNMs,
Hmm.
but it was much more casual than. I mean, at that point, a lot of it wasn't important,
Right.
but SCNMs were kind of fun. I don't know if you ever did them.
No.
The
Oh, I did
the stronghold.
I think I did a couple of them. I remember my big one were the ISNMs for that's how I made a lot of my money when the Imperial standing NMs. Those were fun.
The SDNMs were like you had to kill 8 NMs in each Wings of the Goddess stronghold, and
Hmm.
then you took the sealed crates that they dropped and traded them for key items, and then you could do like a BCNM versus
Yeah.
the Beastman King.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember farming for those. I don't think I ever did them in the recurrence, but those were really
We did
cool.
them as a link shell. It was pretty cool,
Hmm.
but it was like very casual. And then after all the Wings of the Goddess stuff finally wrapped up, and Abizia was really daunting to get past the first 2 stages of your Imperium weapon
Yeah.
because farming 75 things was a nightmare, especially if you were in a low group.
Hmm.
At that point in the game, in its lifestyle, I was in its life cycle. I wasn't so much doing H&Ms anymore. I was just like with friends in groups and just low manning stuff. So I got burnt out, and I took a step away to play other MMOs. I think I played like Two Moons and Ace Online and
Hmm.
other like weird ones that were like Korean MMOs.
Oh yeah.
And I didn't come back until the next expansion. It's I'm drawing a blank because I'm stupid.
After
Seekers. Seekers was a good one.
Oh, so you did come back for Seekers.
I came back for Seekers because like new expansion, I have to play again.
Mhm.
And then a week later, I was like, this game sucks, and I quit for good.
Oh shit. Okay. That's really funny.
Then I quit for good until like
Yeah.
2019.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
about when I came back.
I didn't play through most of Seekers. I think
Yeah.
when Seekers came out, I just didn't register to me. I didn't come back until Rhapsodies was like halfway through, if not later.
Was that like 2016, 2017?
Yeah, probably around then.
Somewhere around there?
I remember coming back and like just doing missions for the first time. Like
Mhm.
that's the first time I actually finished COP and like all these other things.
Yeah.
I finally made it to C and all that other stuff. And I was playing Puppet Master. I came back and I remember we're on Shiva and everything, and
Mhm.
just working my way through stuff. I think Omen Rice and Jima was already out because I remember trying so hard to solo Selk it to get some Herculean
Mm.
stuff because I was like, oh my god, look at the stats on this. It's
Yeah.
amazing. I've got to get this.
Dude, when they dropped that content, one of my college buddies, his younger brother, I was at a house party,
Mhm.
and he was like being the loser. Like, I'm not participating in this party. I'm playing Final Fantasy 11. And I
Hell
Nice.
go over,
Hell
I
yeah.
was like,
yeah.
bro, you play Final Fantasy 11? I quit that shit. And I'm looking at it. I was like, you're in Sky. Sky's still good. He's like, no, this is Escher Ruan, dude.
Oh
And
yeah.
I was like, why is it black and white? What the hell's going on? I
What kind of DAT
this is
mod
new
is this?
Sky. Yeah.
was like, what are
Where are
you
the
doing?
Galcadex with this dad mod?
I was like, yeah, my screen, usually all the Galcas were packing.
Is that what
Yeah.
brought you
Oh
back,
hell yeah.
Dex? Was some
No.
random? No.
I was like, I should play sometime.
Hmm.
And then he's like, yeah, you should. It's really good right now. I was like, yeah. And I was like, no, I won't.
Oh man, how was coming back
Like,
during?
I was playing like
Mhm.
season 1 or preseason League of Legends and other stupid games
Oh,
that
nice.
I
There you
wish
go.
I didn't play.
Yeah, the only other MMO that I played was Terra when that came out, and
Okay.
that was an incredible game when it came out, and they updated it into the ground to the point that it was a super fun, super challenging, like very different style of combat game
Yeah.
for other MMOs, and then they just updated it and kept making it easier and easier and easier until it was basically like Final Fantasy 14, and
Yeah.
it's just terrible. But
So
then
was Final Fantasy 11 both of you guys' first MMO?
yeah.
I think I played a few other games like here and there. It was my first like real MMO. I
Mhm.
played like Ragnarok Online and stuff like that
Mm,
that were online or MMO games, but like I didn't fully. I played them as a solo like single player game, basically.
yeah.
You know.
My first MMO
Um,
was Fantasy Star Online on the GameCube.
oh yeah, okay.
Oh.
Fantasy Star is another one that even I think Fantasy Star Online 2 was like the cult one that everybody's
On
still
GameCube, it
talks
was
about.
episode 1 and 2 combined into one game.
Nice. Oh, nice. Yeah, but yeah, Final Fantasy 11 was definitely my major one. I think actually um I probably came back to 11 in like when 14 came out.
Mhm.
Because I remember that 14 came out on PC and all that other stuff, like 1.0. And I was like, oh my God, like this is, I remember a bunch of my friends moving over to 14 and all this other stuff. And I was like, oh my God, like this is a new Final Fantasy MMO. This is amazing. And I like downloaded the beta and I installed it on my super shitty laptop, and it was like the first time I ever played a game in a slideshow format. You know what I mean? Where it was like, and I was like, oh wait, okay, maybe I should just play 11.
Yeah.
Dude, when 14 came out, I had I had a tight-knit group of friends, and I had one who was just like sold immediately. I don't know why,
Yeah,
but he became the 14 zealot. Like he would
yeah.
hop on 11 to convert people.
Oh, geez. Yeah,
It
there
was
were a
a
lot
it
of
was
people
a
like that.
It was
I feel
1.0
like
and it was
14.
like really bad at first.
14 coming out was like Abyssia essentially. It was so divisive in terms of
Yeah.
like there were
Yeah.
either people that were converted and were like everybody has to come, it's the best thing that's ever happened, and then there are people that are like, not, this is not my Final Fantasy MMO.
I was one
11's
of those.
better and I'm never gonna
I was
play
like, fuck
14.
that
Yeah.
game. We play 11. Go away.
I
Yeah.
And I
remember
kept trying to convince him. I was like, you need to leave us alone if you're gonna do that shit.
there was a point in time where everybody was like, "Oh yeah, you're going to be able to transfer your 11 characters over there. It's
Oh
just going
yeah.
to be like essentially the same game except way better with much better like graphics and stuff like that." And I don't know. I didn't really follow like the launch of it very much because I wasn't all that interested in it. But that was like a big deal that I remember people talking about a lot, was that it was just going to be like a one for one upgrade of 11, and obviously that never fucking happened.
On launch,
Yeah,
it kind
I
of was.
Was
I
it?
really wanted to play. It's I'm with Talon. Like I really wanted to play Final Fantasy 14 in 1.0,
Mhm.
and like as an 11 player, like everything that people kind of point out as flaws to the game, I'm like, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
You know, like I
So
think
what
I would have
Val
liked
said,
it, and if I had played 1.0, I probably would have been one of those players that quit when 2.0 came out because they ruined the game.
Mm.
thank you.
But I
I'm
couldn't
gonna
play
tell
it.
my story, but yes, exactly.
I couldn't play it until A Realm Reborn came out. And I actually got it on PlayStation 4. And then, that's when I took a pretty long break because I became a 14 player for a long time.
So in my brain, I don't know if this lines up with when I quit 11,
Mhm.
because like I took breaks periodically because of how shitty and stale the content was towards the end of Wings and all that. But I forget exactly when 14 came out, but I had taken like a short hiatus from 11 because eventually that one friend like kept begging and begging me to play, and he's like, they patched it again and now it's a lot better and this because 1.0
Yeah.
launched horribly,
Right.
and
Yeah.
it was like a mockery in the community, and
Well, there's so
eventually
many
they kept
stupid
patching it.
mechanics, like the fatigue system, where the more you played, the less experience
Yeah,
you
Oh,
got, and
yeah.
all this other stuff.
there
It's
was
just
like
like,
an XP bonus,
yeah,
and
Mhm.
if you played for too long, it went away. And if you logged off for a certain amount of time in your bed, you got an XP bonus. So it incentivized you not playing it for periods of time, which was weird. But yeah, 1.0 launched so bad, and after a certain amount of updates, he was like, "Listen, it's good now. I swear." He eventually convinced me to play,
Mhm.
and I really got hooked on it. Like
oh, really?
it was really like it played like 11, but with like newer, more modern mechanics. It was like kind of
Yeah.
wowish, but much more towards the 11 side. Like it
Okay.
had the
Mhm.
11 style of combat
Mhm.
without gear swapping.
Interesting.
And the weirdest thing was like the way the maps were laid out. It seemed like really copy paste. Like every map was
Yeah.
like they took a chunk of the map and then copied it and pasted it 50 times, or like
Yeah.
tilted it slightly just to
Mhm.
make it a little different, the terrain.
Yeah.
I remember the most iconic thing was like I wanted to get this achievement because there was weird achievements in that game for like discovering every section of every place in the world. And
Mhm.
to do that back then, you'd be in like Rolandberry Fields, like Hegmo is right now,
Hmm.
and you would like move 20 yalms forward or 50 yalms forward, and then the game would reload, and you'd be in a new like sub map on the map, and every mob in the area would go from being level 30 to level 99, and you'd get one
Oh my
shot.
God.
That's hilarious.
So like discovering every section, air quotes, of the map, you had to like go to all those subsections, and you had to like traverse like tight corridors to not get aggroed by mobs that one shot you in order to find these areas. It
There
was
you
kind
go.
of fun. Like I haven't felt that level of exploration since like the
Hmm.
beginning of 11,
Yeah.
and I played the shit out
That
of
kind of like terror of navigating an environment. Like when you're like the old school, going back to like way older nostalgia, trying to get to Juneau for the first time. Like
that,
Mhm.
or like
just
getting
like
on the boat to
sweaty
go to
palms and
Selena, or
yeah.
yep,
And then a
those
fish
first
aggroes
times.
you and you die.
Yeah.
Those
S-
first times, like, going through,
You know
like,
what?
Sky and
You know
getting
what's
Hegmo with
crazy
all the
too?
weapons.
Because we all played kind of Zillart COP. Somebody reminded me of this a while ago, and I had totally forgotten. Um, when we all started playing Final Fantasy 11, the movement speed was actually slower.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's true.
Yeah. They buffed all character movement speed by like a ton, like 100% or something like that at some point.
Hmm.
Um, and it used to be that you'd move slower, and then flee was like 100% movement speed instead of 60 or whatever it is now.
correct.
Um, and yeah, they changed that at one point. But yeah, imagine, it would take me a little bit of time to walk if I tried to go back to Bastock right now. It'd take me a little bit of time, but it was half as fast on that first trek, and it was just
Plus
so
no home
terrifying.
points,
Yeah.
plus survival guides,
Yeah.
plus some of that.
So when did
Dying
you
in the field in the
guys?
middle of nowhere was like a death sentence. You have to warp and then go
Hmm.
back to your EXP camp, and that's like a 40-minute journey.
Hmm.
So when did you guys come back to the game? How was coming back to the game after your big break, and what brought you two back?
Like in this most recent, like
Yeah,
since
i-
since I started playing it.
in the modern
Uh,
era since you started
yeah,
playing
in the
again.
modern era.
Yeah.
I mean, I bounced around a lot of different games. Like I played a lot of 14 from A Realm Reborn on.
Hmm.
Like I was in end game rating groups and stuff like that, and my interest was slowly tapering off on that, and I kind of came back to 11 just as something else to play.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, again, like coming back and like being able to do missions I'd never done before, finish COP and all this other stuff. It was kind of like, oh, it's exciting, like all this stuff that I've never been able to do. And then eventually I got, finished with Rhapsodies, all that other stuff. And I got into an end game link shell that was doing Dynamis Divergence. I remember the first, well, I teamed up with a few people at one point, and we went into Dynamis Bastock, and we fought the very first red eye on wave one, um, by the Chocobo stable.
Hmm.
We fought it for like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I left that group. I didn't get invited back to that group, I guess. And then I was playing Monk. I got Svarai, and there was a group shouting, um, in Bastock, like, "Hey, we've got 2 spots open for Dynamics Divergence if anybody wants to join." And I sent the battalion. I was like, "Hey, I'll come on Monk." And they kind of like interrogated me a little bit.
Yeah.
Like,
Was
"Oh,
this
do
like
you have
right
any other
after the monk buff?
jobs?" What was that?
Was this like right after the monk buffs?
No, it was before monk buff. So like this was pre monk buff.
Mhm.
But I was like committed to playing monk, and they're like, "Do you have any other jobs?" I was like, "No, that just monk." Like, and it's I've got some good gear and whatnot. And I ran with them in Bastock the one time. And they were like, "Hey, by the end of it, they were like, "Hey, if you want to come back, like we do this every Sunday, you can join the link shell." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And then by the time like the third or fourth Dynamis, uh, I was like, this was again pre monk buffs. It was one of those situations where somebody started calling the link shell out,
Mhm.
and they'd be like, "Hey, this guy that just joined the link shell and started running Dynamis with us like a couple weeks ago is on monk, and he's doing more damage than you. What's going on?"
Jeez. Oh no.
And I was like, yeah, it was my puppet
Yeah.
master moment.
Good
It
work.
was just like, hell yeah. And then yeah, from there, like I finally got into Endgame and was like doing Omen and Dynamis, and
Mhm.
I haven't stopped ever since.
Hell yeah. Dex, when did
How
you
about you?
come back?
Tell your story.
Okay. So I came back in, I want to say 2019, 2020, when the COVID shutdown was like
Mm,
hardcore. And the only reason I came back is because I had to go down to my parents' house for like 3 or 4 days. And I brought my laptop and I just had nothing to do. So I was like, I guess I'll just see what's going on with this. And I was absolutely shocked because I had no no like pre-existing expectations of what was going on in the game. Like I wouldn't have been surprised if it had been exactly the same when I left in Void Watch. And I log in. I made a new character. This is my alt. I decided to go full degen. I made my very first Mithra character in 2019, and I never had a chance to like catfish anybody with it, but there's still
Yeah,
time
you were
for
like,
that.
Oh
it's
man.
finally my turn.
Yeah, it's finally my turn. I'm finally going to get some in-game currency. But I came back and I was like, wow. I remember my very first impression. I walked out. I started in Sandoria, and I walked out and I killed a bunny and I got an entire level off of one kill. And I
Yeah.
was like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
I was like, that's not right. There must be like something glitched or something. But I remember in like that weekend, I got like Red Mage to level 60 on this like brand new character, and I contacted Square and I got access back to my original character, and I was like, wow,
Nice.
this is fucking amazing, and I just got fully sucked in. I remember like grinding my way through very easy Volume 2 Ambuscade, like doing everything the hard way. I was on Sylph, which is
Hmm.
a very like
Oh
small
yeah.
population server, so I remember like getting drunk one night and like trying to shout for people to do ambuscade with, and I was like in the shout chat being like, "Dude, it's literally called easy. Just come fucking do it with me, you assholes." But
No, totally. I remember doing that too. Like just and like, you'd be like, wait, if I can get this whole new set of gear that's crazy. If
yeah,
I just run very easy ambuscade solo 700 times, I can do it.
700.
Yeah.
yeah,
And like I'm
exactly.
an old school Final Fantasy 11 player.
I
I'm
know how to
I'm
grind.
used to I'm used to running up and down Crawler's Nest for 18 hours. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh,
So I when I came back, there was it was weird because I was in this link shell that had been around when I was a kid, and the link shell leader had come back like a couple years before me, and he wasn't super active, but there were people in the link shell that wanted to do content. So I remember I leveled up my bard on my alt, and I wanted to do omen for the first time, and I got like there was another new player and he was like, I don't want to do Omen with you because you only have 3 songs and a G horn.
oh
Like
no.
you're like there's no point. And I was like, dude, you've literally fucking never done Omen either. What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
Just come do the content. And it was
That
just
was me. That was
yeah,
me refusing to play without full buffs. I'm like,
yeah.
I need full potency. My ego cannot handle a 3-song bard.
And ironically, Funkworks was in that link shell.
Oh, nice.
And he
That's cool.
obviously wrote the bard guide, and he was like, yeah, it's fine, like I'll walk you guys through it, I'll come and help you and show you guys how to do omen. And I was like, oh, this is fucking amazing. And Funk was in there with his Mandau thief just tearing shit up, and it was fine. Like that was how I got back in. And then I eventually transferred to Azura because I wanted to do Odyssey, and there just
Oh,
wasn't the
nice.
population on Sylph for it. So I sent my alt over first, and I remember shouting, just I was like, "Hey, does any endgame link shell need a bard?" And I got like 2 tells, and I was like, "Fuck yeah!" And they were like, "Hey, we're
Ah.
doing Dynamis right now," and I was like, "Oh
Yeah,
fuck yeah, let's go!" And
yeah,
yeah, ever since then, just been doing stuff on Azure, and it's been great.
nice. I think I transferred to Ashura one time
Mhm.
to like, do the classic, like buy some stuff, sell some stuff, and just check it out because everybody was talking about how Ashura was the big server.
Mhm.
And it's my experience was I don't know if you guys are familiar with Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Of course.
Yep.
It's like when they finally get to Camelot, and I'm just like I was there for like 15 minutes. I was like, Ashura is a silly place, and I just left.
Oh, oh no.
Yeah.
It is a silly place.
Yeah, it really is. Dex,
My
how was your turn?
experience,
Mhm.
um, basically, after quitting, I played a bunch of MMOs, and I finished college and got my job where I'm at now. And I started working on night shift. So I basically lost all contact with all my friends because they all played like games during the day, and I couldn't play with them
Mm.
anymore.
Mhm.
So all my coworkers played Destiny, and I was like, I guess I'm buying a
Oh
PlayStation 3.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
and I bought the PlayStation, so I had someone to game with. And then I got hooked into Destiny, and I played Destiny for 7 years.
Oh
And
wow. Okay.
towards the end of Destiny, like I was getting like I did everything as crazy as I do in 11 now. I'm a one game Andy. Like I play one game and move. But like at one point they like sunset a bunch of weapons that I'd spent
Yeah.
weeks grinding for, and I was
Mhm.
like, "Fuck you guys!" And at the time, my friends, my real life friends who had played 11 with me way back when, they were playing again, and they kept telling me to play. I was like, "I would, but I wouldn't be able to play with you. So what's the point?"
Mhm. Yeah.
And at the time, my buddy, who's a RuneScape streamer, Derm, he was streaming 11 because he was back and like grinding hard. I think he was the first one that got them to play again. And watching him stream from work like got me the itch again. I was
Oh,
like,
nice.
"Oh, it's 11. Like this looks sick. I want to play
Yeah.
11." So I took the plunge and like bailed on all my Destiny friends, and I never looked back.
Hell yeah. Yeah,
I
you're
played a
And
lot of
like
Destiny too.
you're
this
like,
was like
"Fuck you guys.
2019.
I'm gonna play this 20-year-old MMO.
Yeah.
Bet."
They're like, "What are
It's
you doing?"
yeah, yeah. Oh man,
But
that's so
yeah, it
funny.
was
It's
like
pretty
late
crazy to go
2019.
from to Destiny and being like, oh man, this is just crazy. Like I have to do all this grinding for
Mhm.
these specific engrams or whatever, and like I never get the drop that I need, and then it's like all this daily work. I think I'll go play Final Fantasy 11 instead.
Yeah, yeah, that'll be
Yeah,
way more
literally.
rewarding.
I do like I do like 12 hours a day grinding like a certain piece of content and getting a
Yeah.
gun like 50 times, and it's not the right roll. It's
Mhm.
just like, God damn it. But then, you do that and you come back to this game, you could do Shinryu 700 times and never
Yeah,
get anything you ever wanted.
yeah, exactly.
But it was like late 2019, I think August. And my buddies were like, "Okay, well, we can help you get started. And we can just do some ambuscade for you." I was like, "What the hell's ambuscade?" And they're like,
Yeah.
"Well, it's the turtles, so we're gonna bring rangers, and we need a healer, so you can just play blue mage and throw magic fruits at us, and that'll be fine." And they just like carried me through some VDs and
There you
got
go.
me like jump started into the game.
Oh jeez. That's fucking awesome.
I think since then it's just been like slowly but surely grinding out, because I remember feeling super overwhelmed with how
Mhm.
horizontal the game had become, and I
Yeah.
had
Oh
so many
yeah.
Mm.
stories to
Yeah,
do. Like
yeah.
I was just like, I got to do one thing at a time, and I would like tackle a story.
Mhm.
Oh, you're talking
I
about
mean,
the loot
I think
game.
that like there's I don't know. There is that same sense even now. Like sometimes I'll like look at my to-do list and be like, there's so much to do. And I can only imagine as like a newer returning player, like
Yeah.
looking at all of the progression systems, and it is super daunting. It's a feature in a lot of ways because like there's still so much to do, but it's
Mhm.
also like so daunting. Uh like even now when they're adding like new stuff with Limbus going to +4 and all this other, it's just like if you're a new player and you're like, all right, so you have to start here, you have to farm up your artifact gear at level 50, and then you have to do every mission chain so that you can finish Rhapsodies, so that you can do Omen, so that you can get cards from Omen to get to +2 and +3, and then you've got to
Yeah,
do
yeah.
Limbus. And it's just
Also,
like
do tons of BCNMs to get rem tails.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, when Shirash comes back, we're actually planning on doing an entire episode just focused on progression from 99.
Oh, nice.
And we're gonna try to break down that as much as we can. But I can already tell, just like thinking about how that conversation is gonna go, it's gonna be a big one.
I think there's gonna be a lot
What's the
of different
optimal leveling
approaches.
route?
Like, there's gonna be like shortcut approaches
Hmm.
and wholesome approaches.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, first thing you do is you, get your friend to cleave you to 99.
Absolutely.
When
Yeah.
Funny you say that. Like when I came back to the game, I was like, "You can just cleave with blue mage and like level stuff up. This is
Hmm.
great."
What do you
Like
mean dragons?
I can
I
go
did
to
that a
Esha's
lot.
and max out my shit real quick and get all my merits for every job capped. I'm
Hmm.
gonna go do that and get unlock the 75 merit limit and all that.
Hell yeah. Well, boys, I before we start wrapping this up, I wanted to once again mention that we made the email this week,
Mhm.
blurredxi@gmail.com. So if anybody wants to shoot us an email, if they got any questions they want us to discuss on the podcast, let us
If you've
know.
got like a if you've got like a YouTube comment that's more
Mhm.
than a few sentences, just go ahead
Yeah,
and send it there instead.
yeah.
Are you talking about anyone in particular?
No, no. I love all of our 5-page long comments. I am looking forward to more on this one. I can't wait until they're like, actually, Chains of
Your
Prometheus only,
experience is wrong.
yeah, Chains of Prometheus only C minus tier, guys. But
We haven't done a tier list of the expansion.
so I think what we should do is we should do a tier list of our experiences in the expansions, and
Mm,
then and
Ooh.
then that'll let people like come in and kind of correct those. Well, actually,
yeah.
but
I
I'm
can
looking
draw an
forward to it.
MS Paint art for each of our experiences.
Absolutely. But so we're also in the talks of adding a new Jeopardy segment to the podcast. We're
Oh.
talking to somebody who organizes some Jeopardy, so we might bring on some people to play Final Fantasy 11 Jeopardy.
That does
Hell
sound
yeah.
fun.
What's that,
Before
Dex?
we wrap up, is there any like highlight moment from the 75 era that like jumps to your mind? Like I made this accomplishment, or like this was like the thing I did that I'm really proud of.
You know, I think
Mm.
for 75 era, the key moments for me were getting to Sky, were actually like performing in a group, because going from XP parties to tanking Byakuo felt like such an abrupt change in gameplay and like the amount of pressure that you have on you as a player. That was a really really big deal for me. And the jump from chains to TOAU was huge. I remember when I picked up the TOAU expansion, I was, I don't know, I think I was like 14 at the time. We picked it up, and then my parents wanted to go to Home Depot afterwards. And
You're like, oh, come on.
yeah, I remember sitting in the car, like banging my
It's so
fists
funny
because I
that it's
wanted to
such a
fucking go.
core memory that you remember they were going to Home Depot, dude.
Yeah, yeah, because that's just what my parents do, is they go to hardware stores. But I was so mad
Yeah.
because I just wanted to go home and plug in the new expansion
Yeah.
that took 8 hours to download.
Yeah.
But yeah, TOAU was a really really big deal for me. I think that was my most memorable like expansion.
I think
I think
my
TOAU was the
my
best expansion.
wait, was that?
I said I think TOAU was the best
Oh
expansion.
yeah. I think so too. I think it was the most like well thought out from beginning to end. Like they really like had it mapped out pretty
They
well.
also didn't make us wait 3 years for the finale of it.
Yeah. I think my most memorable like 75 era moment, because I was such a non-end game, scrub for the longest time, was probably maxing out my adventuring fellow.
Oh
Oh,
shit,
dude, I forgot about
that's a
that guy.
grind. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
My adventuring fellow was a Galka with a scythe because my IRL buddy was a Galka Dark
Mhm.
Knight, and
Yeah.
he had like seldom played at the time. And I was like, I want to play with my buddy again. So I just
Oh, you
made him Galka
recreated
with
him.
a scythe.
You
Yeah, I
created the
recreated.
inflatable version.
Hell yeah. My adventuring fellow was a exact copy of my character. I was
I
like,
mean, I went
it doesn't get better than this. It
I
doesn't.
made a little Tarutaru.
Mhm.
I mean, I had a little female Tarutaru companion.
Oh,
That stupid
that's kind of weird.
earring link pearl that you had to summon him
Yeah.
from.
Oh yeah.
It was such a pain in the ass to level him too, and they capped it 50, I think, or was it
Mhm.
75? Eventually, you had to do like a
I think it
special
started
limit
at
break.
50 and then they were like they had their own limit break
Yeah, they had that
quest.
like
Yeah.
unique limit break quest. Suck.
Yeah. Hegmo,
I kind of wish.
what was your
Um,
75 era moment?
sorry,
Just
I was
that
just saying.
adventuring
I wish
fellow.
you could convert the fellow to a trust now. That'd be cool.
That would be
That would
cool.
be cool. That would be cool if you could create a customized trust that you could program, like you give it a Yaller horn and you teach it how to sing songs
But, like,
properly. That'd be cool.
you
Yeah.
can give Monborough medicine in town, and it affects his
Yeah.
trust. Like it would be the
True.
same
Yeah.
thing.
Give him a Luna Shade, and
Yeah.
you're good to go.
Imagine just making a stage 4 prime just to give to your trust.
That'd be amazing. I could. Are you telling
Well,
me
you
I
have
could
to
make a
pick off
second
the
Lafreo?
Yeah.
All right, Hegmo,
What were
But
you
favorite
yeah,
asking, Heghmo? I cut him off.
favorite
I was just saying like that was my 75 era moment,
mhm.
was getting my trust leveled up. Like I
Oh
was
yeah.
or my adventuring fellow.
Yeah.
That was probably my memorable
So
thing
your
because I was
75 days were like super chill.
Mhm.
yeah, I was that and like finally finishing a stack of tree cuttings.
Mm. That was a long time commitment.
Yeah.
I was like an end game loser at 75, where I just like constantly had to do like end game shit with the shells.
Hell
And
yeah.
I would say like my hardcore era memory of that stuff was like proving that Blue Mage could be good.
Mhm.
So like I
I think
would force
yeah,
Blue Mage into end game events when people didn't want it. They'd be like,
yeah.
"Come Ranger," or like, "You don't have jobs I need," and I was like, "I can come Blue Mage," and they're like, "No, you can't." So at
Mhm.
one point, I remember I tanked Jormungand on Blue Mage with like weird enmity builds and diffusion exuviation for hate and stuff. Um, I remember cannonballing Oryu, cannonballing a bunch of stuff like Kieran. I remember heat breathing Tiamat and beating black mages.
Hell yeah.
Like just
Nice.
doing stuff I wasn't supposed to do.
Yeah. I mean, blue was cool. Like, I feel like blue has kind of fallen off as having so much potency, but it was such a like if you knew the secret blue strats, there were so many cool things you could do
Oh
Blue
yeah.
used to be all about its spells,
back
and
in the
now
day.
it's not.
Yeah. Burst affinity and stuff
Mhm.
was super cool.
Those things didn't age well, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sneak
Yeah, I think
attack,
like for me,
cannonball.
75 arrows was the little things. Like,
Mhm.
like you finally get I remember rampaging, like getting unlocking rampage for the first
Oh
time.
hell yeah.
And the first time all the hits actually landed and just being like, oh my God, I'm a god.
It's like
Like
if you play Dark Knight, it's like when you do that guillotine for the first time
yeah,
Oh
and you do
yeah.
like X hundreds of damage, and you're like, my God.
yeah.
Ah, jeez. All right, fellas. You guys got anything else you want to add before we wrap this up?
Did anyone ever MPK anybody?
I tried, but I wasn't
In,
very good at it.
intentionally or unintentionally.
Both.
Um, I don't think I ever intentionally MPK'd, but I definitely created some crawlers nest trains in
I
my
Hell
should have
yeah.
day.
got banned because I remember I was Mr. NM camping money stuff, and I would
Mhm.
camp Midegi the Punisher for the Kote and Kudomi the Gallant for the Kyahan.
There you go.
And if people beat me, I would just go upstairs and there's a really big train.
Oh,
There's something coming.
that's kind of fucked up. Oh man. See, I'm glad those formative years are behind us. We've been learning a lot. We've learned a lot of life lessons from this game. We've grown up more or less on this game, and
Hey,
here we
if
are.
someone beats you to something, you can put them on a timer.
Mhm.
There's nothing wrong with
It's true.
that.
Just make him despawn, and now you can relive those glory days in Limbus.
Yeah, you sure can in Limbus.
Yeah.
Mhm. It's the
Bringing
best
it
part.
back. I miss that time where like
Absolutely.
things were more chaotic and it was more like the game was just really unpredictable back then.
Mhm. It was more dangerous. It was scarier, and the consequences felt a little bit more real.
Not only like could you just get screwed over by people in that way, and if you did, you
Mhm.
were 40 minutes away from your destination.
It's very true. All right,
But also
fellas.
just I mean like the community aspect was different back then too. Like I
Mhm.
feel like there's ways to circumvent stuff nowadays, but like, you have the person that ninja lotted something and
Oh yeah.
pissed off the entire H&M link shell, and
Mhm.
then you're just blacklisted from the server.
Yeah, you'd
That's
get
like that's
exiled, and
yeah.
that would follow you across
Everyone
servers
knew.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get outed on the forums, and Blue Garter, and all that stuff. And yeah, that shit'll follow you for sure. Don't steal the link shell bank, anybody.
Yeah.
All right,
Well, thank you
guys.
for having me again.
Yeah,
I
thanks
appreciate
for
it,
coming
Brett.
on, Hegmo. Thanks for being around, Dex. Hopefully, we will run this back next week with a different topic. And until then, I will see you all next time.
Thanks.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.